Chapter 802. Chun Fei-er's photo was taken in Sushi Town at the foot of Qingning Mountain. This ancient town, with a history of hundreds of years, was very famous in Ningxian. Its architectural style and culture were very traditional. It was often visited by backpackers, and now it had become one of the attractions in Ningxian's tourist area. The stream in the photo was from Qingning Mountain and meandered through the ancient town. In March every year, the peach blossom forest by the stream was in full bloom, and it was the most beautiful time. The scenery was beautiful, and the person was even more beautiful. Chun Fei rarely took photos in ancient costumes. Last time, when she was filming a Chinese ghost story, she played the role of the boss. Compared with today's photo posted on the blog, it was a completely different style. It really made people's eyes light up. The fans directly knelt down. So beautiful. It's so beautiful that I can't stand it. Foul. The real goddess is unparalleled. I want to know where this photo was taken. I want the original high-resolution photo. I want to use it as my computer desktop. I'm begging. My Fei-er is so suitable to wear the traditional Chinese costume. Is this the official photo of the smiling, proud wanderer? It's so beautiful. Ren Yingying, like many female stars, Chun Fei-er often posted photos on the blog. Some of them were photos of her life or work, and, of course, there were also selfies. But unlike most people, her photos were never overdone with Photoshop, and she would not use any software to overdo it. She completely showed her true beauty. There was basically no Photoshop effect in this photo, but both the color and the composition were very clever. It used the poetic scenery to set off Chun Fei-er's beauty and temperament. It was reasonable to win countless fans' praise. It could be seen that Chun Fei-er liked this photo very much, so she took it out and put it on the blog. She also tagged Lu Chun. Although there were no words, the meaning was obvious. Come and praise me. When Lu Chun saw this photo, he had just returned home. Because Lu Shi took people to Ningxian for the examination, he had to stay in the company. In addition to the program production of the 8 Storms Return to the Capital, he was busy until 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. After taking a shower, he habitually turned on his computer and logged into his blog, only to see countless people tagging him. Seeing the peach blossoms in the photo, Lu Chun felt the tiredness of a busy day disappear, and he couldn't help but smile. He pondered for a moment before replying to Chun Fei-er with a few lines of poetry. The birth of spring, the first spring forest hen, lee of spring breeze, is not as good as you. This short poem of only 15 words came from Lu Chun's memories in his dream world. Although it was extremely short, it spoke of the beauty of spring. But on the basis of describing the spring scenery, it also used the words not as good as you to express the love and admiration in his heart. No matter how beautiful the spring scenery is, no matter how strong the feeling of spring is, no matter how warm the spring breeze is, it is not as good as having you by my side and in my heart. Lu Chun felt that only this poem could express his love. When Chun Fei-er saw his reply, he quickly replied with a shy emoji that could melt a girl's heart. As for the countless fans, they were fed dog food. So sad, just after Women's Day, I'm fed dog food again. Is there any justice in this world? Wow, Chun can write poems? Those who ask Lu Chun can write poems are really drunk. Lu Chun has written so many songs. Isn't it normal that he can write poems? Spring Breeze is not as good as you. It's written too well. Is this a love poem that Chun gave to Fei-er? It's so fitting. If anyone writes such a love poem to me, I'll marry him immediately. I'm going to engrave this poem on my phone. Lu Chun and Chun Fei-er's blog fans added up to more than 200 million. Although there was definitely a large number of overlap in the entire entertainment industry, they were absolutely invincible. Any blog post by the two could get millions of clicks, hundreds of thousands of comments and forwards, and the interaction between the two tonight was particularly different, truly illustrating what it meant to be a perfect match. A photo and a short poem instantly blew up the Waves blog. In just 1 hour, Lu Chun's blog had been forwarded more than 500,000 times, and there were hundreds of thousands of comments. In the modern online society, With a killing machine like search engines, it was simply too easy to determine whether a poem was original or not. The fans who had their hearts poked praised it, and it also attracted many people in the industry and even big and small VIPs in the literary circle to join in. Without any suspense, Lu Chen's new blog post reached the top of the hot topics on the homepage of Wave's blog. Lu Chen and Chun Fei and Spring Breeze is not as good as you also quickly appeared on the keyword search list. If it was an ordinary person who wrote the same poem and published it on the blog, the result was likely to be drowned in the sea of words of hundreds of millions of people, and it would not cause the slightest ripple. Even if it was published in newspapers and magazines, there might not be much of a response. Perhaps the brilliance of a good poem could not be buried forever, and it would eventually be loved and recognized by people, but it would never spread throughout the entire online world in such a short period of time and be read and discussed by hundreds of millions of people. A literary critic wrote on his blog, "Thank you, Lu Chen, for letting me read a good poem and understand a true love. I used to think that poets no longer belong to this era, but now I know I was wrong. Do you know what I want to do the most now?" When the online world was in an uproar, Chun Fei called Lu Chen. Her voice was full of gentle love. "I want to fly back to your side immediately." Lu Chen laughed and said, "If I had known, I would have written a few more poems for you." Chun Fei sighed and said, "Really, I really feel that I am the happiest woman in the world. If I could be by your side now, it would be perfect." A woman immersed in a sweet love was irrational. "I'll get my assistant to drive me back now." "Don't." Lu Chen was shocked. "It's so far away, it's too dangerous to drive at night." What a joke. From Ningxian to Beijing on the highway, it was at least 2,000 kilometers, and it would take more than 10 hours to drive smoothly. How could he be at ease? Chun Fei giggled. "I know, I was just saying, look at how scared you are." Lu Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. "All right, you must be tired today, right? Rest early." "No," Chun Fei was willful. "I want to talk to you more, listen to your voice." Fortunately, the fans could not hear the conversation between the two, or else they would have goosebumps all over their bodies. The two were sweet and affectionate, and although they were separated by thousands of miles, it was as if they were close at hand. Some people, on the other hand, were stuffed with the dog food by the two of them and felt very upset. Chapter 803. Bang! A fist slammed heavily on the desk, causing the laptop placed on it to jump. The screen fluctuated a few times before stabilizing again. What was displayed on the screen was the hot list of Inspur blog. Goulet picked up the bottle of mineral water on the bar and gulped it down in one gulp. His eyes were glued to the screen, and he squeezed the empty plastic bottle in his hand until it made a cracking sound, just like his mood at the moment. In just a few hours, his popularity on Wave's blog dropped by 3 places and directly fell off the homepage list. The internet world is vast and boundless, and there are countless news transmitted through the internet every day. As the largest online community platform in China, Wave's blog can reflect current hot events to a large extent. Because of this, the hot list on the homepage of Wave's blog is updated very quickly. Because there are new and even big events every day, it attracts tens of millions of netizens to comment, click, and forward. It's just that no event can maintain enough freshness forever. Today's world-shaking event may not be talked about by many people in 2 days because everyone is attracted by the new information. Some time ago, Goulet desperately hyped up his popularity and finally got on the hot list of the homepage of Inspur blog as he wished. It is reasonable to say that he should be satisfied after a few days on it. It is difficult for many star artists to show their faces. But Goulet is very unhappy, very dissatisfied. How do you do things? We paid the money that should be paid, didn't we? We agreed to stay on the homepage for at least a week, but now it has fallen off after only 3 days. What do you think we should do? He spewed all the depression and annoyance in his heart at the 2 men sitting opposite him, resisting the urge to beat them up. Goulet's temper has always been bad. When he first switched to the film and television industry, he suffered a lot because of his bad temper and almost couldn't make it in. Later, He hit the wall, and his head was bleeding. Finally, he came to his senses and restrained his nature and temper. He was careful with his tail between his legs. When it was time to be a grandson, he knelt down and did not hesitate. Finally, the clouds parted to see the moon. After becoming famous, Goulet would occasionally act like a big shot, but he didn't dare to go too far. After all, he hadn't made it to the top level, and it was not easy to act like a big shot. If he offended someone he shouldn't provoke, he might be beaten back to his original state overnight. However, his recent fame had caused his temper to rise, and today, he finally couldn't hold it in any longer. The fact that he didn't beat them up was already the result of him enduring for a long time. In fact, Goulet also had a reason to be angry. He and the company he signed a contract with had invested millions in the hype and had hired the industry's top marketing company for this. The person he had just insulted was the business representative and professional speculator of this online marketing company. It sounded a little unbelievable, spending a few million just to hype himself up. In fact, in the industry, if you wanted to hype yourself up, you had to spend money. It was just that there were tens of thousands of speculation methods and hundreds of thousands of strategies. Spending a few million might seem like a lot, but it was actually very normal if one thought about it carefully. For example, if one wanted to hire a promoter and gunman, they would have to spend as much money as they could if they wanted to have a good effect. They would also have to bribe media reporters and give them a lot of red packets. It might have been possible to become famous on the internet without spending money a few years ago, but it was impossible now. Take a few big web portals, for example. If one wanted to get into the entertainment section of the news, they would have to spend money to buy a position. It was even more expensive to get on the headlines. Writing a good article would cost thousands of yuan. Goulet's weakness was that his reputation was not loud enough and his popularity was not strong enough. If he wanted to rely on hype to rise up, in addition to riding on the popularity of big names, he would have to be willing to spend money to hype himself up. Goulet was not afraid of spending money. Anyway, he had the company he signed a contract with to back him up. The money he spent on hype now would sooner or later be earned back with interest. However, he had spent a lot of money, and it took him a lot of effort to jump up and down. Seeing that his own hype was getting more and more popular, suddenly a big basin of cold water was poured down on him. How could he bear it? He had just enjoyed the feeling of being in the limelight and everyone's attention. That was especially unbearable to be ignored by the public. And looking at the top of the Waves blog's hot list, Spring Breeze is Not Like You, Lu Chen's love poem, Chun Fei-er's beautiful photos. There was even being fed dog food again. Goulet felt that he was F***ed. Casually counting, on today's Waves blog's hot list, there were as many as 4 or 5 posts related to Lu Chen. And what did Lu Chen do? Lu Chen only wrote a short poem. The content of 15 words easily crushed him into slag. It was really F***ing unbelievable. Goulet did not want to admit how jealous he was of Lu Chen. He did not want to be inferior to Lu Chen. He did not think that he would benefit from riding on Lu Chen's popularity. He only felt that fate was unfair. You have to think of a way to stir up the popularity again. Regarding Goulet's tough request, the two marketing companies looked at each other. In fact, they were also quite helpless. Nowadays, hyping up hot topics was considered a technical job. It was not possible to use brute force. Some time ago, the hype was already very strong. If they increased the effort, it would be as bad as not enough. The most important thing was that the Waves blog had always strictly controlled the hype on the internet. Although there were unspoken rules that could be exploited, if one crossed the line, it would be very difficult to deal with. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame Lu Chen for being too abnormal. His hundreds of millions of fans in Immerse blog were simply terrifying, and his influence was so great that almost no one could compete with him. He didn't need to accompany Goulet to fight at all. He just had an artistic interaction with Chun Fei-er, and all his competitors were knocked into the dust. Compared to the calm Lu Chen, Goulet was like a dancing clown on the street. The difference was obvious. The marketing company originally had a complete preparatory plan to deal with Lu Chen's possible reaction, whether it was counterattack or silence. There were corresponding countermeasures, but they did not expect Lu Chen's response to be so unique. That was, "You play your game, I play mine. Can you beat me?" Indeed, you can't beat me. The marketing company's people were also helpless. They could not go against the wishes of the investor. Otherwise, how could they make money? The sales representative coughed, patted his chest, and said to Goulet, "Mr. Gu, please rest assured that our company will go all out to achieve the goal and help you get back on the hot list." Goulet stared at him. "You said it yourself, Ding." At this moment, a crisp and sweet sound came from the laptop. The open blog page showed that Goulet's account had just received a new message. Goulet's heart could not help but skip a beat. Suddenly, he had a bad feeling. He quickly held the mouse and clicked on the message. The message indicated that the account he followed had just published a new blog post. And this account was Lu Chen. Chapter 804. Lu Chen's blog was updated again. It was reasonable to say that this should be a normal thing. It was not worth making a fuss at all. It should be known that the current online social media platform was an important place for celebrities and artists in the entertainment industry. Its importance had long surpassed traditional media, such as television and newspapers. Basically, all the people in the industry had a verified account on Wave Blog. Some celebrities were known as blog fanatics. They would even post dozens of blog posts a day. Big things like filming movies and TV series, photos and concerts, and small things like eating, walking, and shopping would be posted on the blog. Daily selfies were indispensable. In contrast, Lu Chen, who had the first number of Wave's blog fans, updated his blog at a very low frequency. Moreover, he did not like to hype on his personal blog, which was very different from many of his peers. As a target to ride on the popularity, Goulet had followed Lu Chen's blog for a long time. He knew Lu Chen's style very well. Putting aside his jealousy, he still had an indescribable admiration for Lu Chen's aloof attitude, because he couldn't do it himself. But now that he saw Lu Chen's blog update, Goulet had a feeling of fear. Previously, he tried his best to hype up the popularity because he was sure that Lu Chen would not be serious with him. Therefore, he was very unscrupulous, thinking that even if he was counterattacked by Lu Chen, he would not be afraid. However, it turned out that Goulet was very wrong. Lu Chen did not need to fight with him at all. He used a few lines of poems to attract all the attention, making him feel like he was a joke. Goulet had a phobia of blogs, but he could not ignore it. So, he clicked on Lu Chen's blog to see what the latter had done. In fact, Goulet himself didn't know that his current mentality was extremely ridiculous. Although his hype behavior, along with a group of followers, did bring some trouble to Lu Chen in public opinion. But Lu Chen did not care at all, because his status in the industry and his popularity in the country were unshakable. There was no need for him to lower himself to argue with people like Goulet. Of course, since there was trouble, he had to find a way to solve it. Lu Chen's way of dealing with it was very simple. You play your game, and I'll play mine. Let's see who wins. Moreover, if he wanted to play, he would definitely play with new tricks and new heights. A poem that triggered a heated discussion among hundreds of millions of people was considered as an appetizer. Lu Chen released the song on his newly updated blog. At the same time, he tagged Chen Feier, "For You in the Distance." This was an original work of his, and it was called 10 Miles of Spring Breeze. I'm in the second ring road, thinking of you. You're on the distant mountain, enjoying the spring breeze. Today, the wind blows against you, and it rains. I say that all the wine in the world is inferior to you. In the night of the drum tower, I sing for you the fragrance of flowers. Elsewhere, silent encounters and expectations. The plane flew over the busy city. Like 1,000 li away, but I won't leave. Last year, Lu Chen hadn't released a new song for a long time because he spent most of his time and energy on the filming of the TV series. In addition, he also went to the United States. For Lu Chen's fans, a TV play a year makes her slash them very happy. But Lu Chen's fans are very unhappy. Moreover, Lu Chen hasn't held a concert so far, and the third record is still far away, which makes people complain. Tien, the main reason was that everyone was spoiled. They were used to Lu Chen's musical talent, which was like a fountain, and were used to the continuous surprises he brought. So their ears became very picky, and they always compared his works with other musicians. Fortunately, since the new year, Liu Chen wrote several more songs in succession, which finally appeased the fans' complaints. Moreover, people also found that Liu Chen now liked to release new songs on Waves' blog. If you read his blog daily, you might get an unexpected surprise. This time, Liu Chen released a new work on his blog again. Therefore, thousands of fans listened to and downloaded the song 10 Miles of Spring Breeze at the first time. All the spring is kneaded into a morning. All the words that can't stop turn into a secret and close the door. Inexplicable feelings, may I ask who will take them away? I have to turn the years into songs and leave them in the mountains and rivers. This song, 10 Miles of Spring Breeze, continued Liu Chen's most commendable folk song style, and it was dedicated to Chen Fei'er. It was gentle and affectionate. It sang the deepest longing for her in the distance. What was very special was that 10 Miles of Spring Breeze was derived from the poem Spring that Liu Chen wrote for Chen Fei'er previously, and it changed the theme and content, maintaining the continuation and sublimation of emotion. The most impressive part of the song was undoubtedly the line, "I said all the wine is not as good as you." From 10 Miles of Spring Breeze is not as good as you to all the wine is not as good as you. It sang Liu Chen's deepest love. To this, Chen Fei'er replied with 3 words, "I love you." If the interaction between Liu Chen and Chen Fei'er on the blog yesterday was a ton of dog food sprinkled to everyone, then today it was at least a truck of dog food. Listening to this song, the fans' feelings were really complicated. Those who had love in their hearts naturally resonated with it. Those who were alone were sad, envious, jealous, and hateful. And those who had loved before were melancholy and sorrowful, someone wrote in the comment. After listening to the first time, I dug out a few cans of beer from the fridge and drank it, hoping to get drunk and see her again in my drunken dreams. Thank you, Liu Chen. Thank you for this song. His comment resonated with countless fans, and many people wrote their own stories on Liu Chen's blog and poured out their love. That year, I got drunk for the first time because of her. I liked her, but she didn't like me. All the wine is not as good as you, Zhang Yameng. I love you. With tears flowing, I listened to it over and over again. When I was young, I didn't understand love, and now I really regret it. My boyfriend is now thousands of miles away. There were so many comments from fans that 10 Miles of Spring Wind appeared on the hot list on the homepage of Waves' blog in just 10 minutes. The speed was so fast that it was jaw-dropping, and it definitely set a record for Waves' blog. Liu Chen's previous and subsequent blog posts also made Goulet's hype a complete joke. Although the marketing company hired by Goulet's contracting company later tried its best to hype up the heat again, not only did it not succeed, but it received a lot of negative comments and was hated by many people. 10. Liu Chen, because the poems and new songs written by Liu Chen represented the love that people yearned for in their hearts. Those who tried to use him to hype up the song naturally appeared particularly despicable and shameless. Those beautiful things should not be tarnished. Note, 10 Miles of Spring Wind, lyrics/music, Dubi. Chapter 805. Beijing, New Era Art Park, East District, Borui Museum. The predecessor of Borui Museum was a 5-story factory production building built in the 1970s. It was wide, sturdy, and rough, with a very typical Soviet style. Nowadays, it was rare in the highly modernized Beijing. The reason why it could be preserved was due to the construction of the art park. At that time, the designer transformed it into a large-scale art exhibition center and divided it into several functional areas, so that the 40-year-old building was rejuvenated and became a unique landscape in the park. At 9 a.m., a large group of excited young people came to Borui Museum. They didn't come to see the art exhibition held here, but to visit and learn the newly opened martial arts club. These young people in their teens and 20s were the actors of the smiling, proud wanderer. They were the winners of the audition, and there were more than 100 people in total. The martial arts club was established by Chunfei Media, which rented an area of 850 square meters on the 5th floor of Borui Museum. It was built into a first-class martial arts training place in China, specializing in the training of stunt doubles and action actors in films and TV series. Although the area of the martial arts club was not very large, all kinds of training facilities were top-notch. Many of the equipment was imported and worth more than 10 million yuan. In addition, a lot of special equipment was customized, such as wires, wooden dummies, universal suspension arms, and so on. The core strength of the martial arts club was the Liu family squad, built by Liu Qin. The establishment of the martial arts club was to expand the number of members of the Liu family squad to meet the talents needed for the development and expansion of the wuxia IP. Before the Liu family squad, the domestic film and television industry was almost blank in this area. Although there were stunt doubles and action actors, they were basically all incompetent. But now with the emergence of the wuxia craze, the talent in this area suddenly became scarce. In fact, except for Liu Chun, the positioning of the wuxia film and TV series in the circle even stopped at the Hong Kong TV series in the 1970s and 1980s or foreign action films, and did not realize the great changes that were about to occur. And Liu Chun was very clear about what he wanted and what he needed to do. He began the development of the wuxia IP 2 years ago, and, prepared step by step, it could be said that he firmly took the initiative. These young people who passed the audition were undoubtedly very good seeds. They had a very good foundation, mastered at least one martial arts skill, and were full of vitality and plasticity. Of course, the first batch of students of the martial arts club did not need so many people, so they must be the best of the best. Therefore, Liu Chun specially arranged today's visit to increase his understanding of them. If they could catch his eye, even if they were eliminated in the later stage of the draft, he could still sign them. For these young people, coming to the Essence Martial Arts Dojo was like entering the Grand View Garden. The equipment and facilities inside were too high-end. They had never seen many of them before, so they were especially curious and fresh. Not only that, but the training of the Liu Martial Arts Club, but also opened their eyes. By Liu members training in martial, what excited the young people most was that they saw Liu Chun here. Martial school, as soon as his voice fell, martial was martial college, martial arts club, China, and martial sect, league, and college and world. And as soon as he finished speaking, there was a warm applause. Many people desperately clapped to vent their excitement. This was Liu Chun, everyone's idol. Many young people traveled thousands of miles to Beijing. In addition to fulfilling their dreams of becoming actors, they also wanted to see Liu Chun. Even if they were eliminated, it was worth it to speak a few words with Liu Chun. Now, they finally got what they wanted. Next to them, the CCTV variety channel's cameraman, carrying a high-definition camera, faithfully recorded the scene. The video would be sent back to CCTV for editing and broadcast as an important part of the talent show. Liu Chun smiled and waited for the applause to subside. He introduced Wan Yong to everyone. This is Martial Arts Club's chief instructor, Teacher Wan Yong. He will be in charge of your training here for the next 3 days. Welcome. There was another round of applause, and many people shouted in unison, Martial Arts Club, Teacher Wan. Wan Yong's expression was serious. He was not affected by the applause at all. He said in a deep voice, Welcome to the Martial Arts Club. From now on, you're students of the Martial Arts Club. Although you only have 3 days to learn, the club has arranged many strict training programs for you. It will definitely be very hard. If you are afraid of suffering, then you can leave now. His sharp eyes swept across the faces of the students, as if he was waiting for someone to leave. However, none of the young people who had passed the online audition and passed the difficult challenge would leave at this time. They had all learned martial arts, and many of them were martial arts students. Why would they be afraid of suffering? Moreover, there was a camera next to them. If anyone were to admit defeat, it would be equivalent to embarrassing themselves in front of the whole country. The young people all straightened their chests and met Wan Yong's gaze like soldiers being inspected. Liu Chun retreated to the side. He was not the protagonist today. They were. These young people were the hope and the future. After a while, Wan Yong nodded with satisfaction. Very good. Since no one wants to leave, then I will now divide you into groups. Each group will have a teacher responsible for training. A total of 170 students were divided into 10 groups. Each group had 17 members. The teacher who served as their teacher was the official member of the Liu family class. The martial arts club had already prepared the training clothes. After the students changed in their respective locker rooms, they came out and lined up in groups. They directly began the first day of basic training. In the past, the fighting in martial arts movies used the routine fighting methods in traditional martial arts. Every move had a fixed pattern. It looked lively, but it was fake. Therefore, martial arts movies were short-lived in Hong Kong and the mainland. They did not form any climate at all. Later, they were directly replaced by action movies, which followed the style and characteristics of Hollywood. The young students had basically seen this kind of action movie. Some had also seen martial arts movies a long time ago. They originally thought that the training content of the martial arts club would not deviate from these two modes. In the end, they found that they were very wrong. What the Liu family class took was a completely new routine. It was reflected in the specific basic training. It undoubtedly brought a great impact to the students' thinking. It also let them discover a completely different world. Chapter 806. The arrival of the 170 students made the newly built elite martial arts dojo extremely lively. Under the leadership of their respective teachers, the 10 groups went through a series of basic training for film and television shooting. 3 days was a very short time, and what the students could learn was actually very limited. Unless they were peerless geniuses, it was impossible for this group of young people to become qualified martial artists through 3 days of learning. The instructors of the Liu family class mainly let them experience the process of film and television shooting in person. Simple pair training, imposing pressure, brandishing guns and swords, including all kinds of actions in front of the green screen, which were combined with computer special effects. The scene and the angle of view were taken as the criterion. Big scenes were used for big movements, small scenes were used for small details, and big movement were used for big movements, such as kicking over a circle of people. Elevation was used to show a certain part of the action, and depth was used to show the situation of the fight. According to Liu Chen's standards, the shooting of martial arts films required very profound skills. He spent a long time sorting out the memory from the dream world, writing a set of detailed shooting theory for martial arts films, and constantly accumulating experience through actual shooting. When shooting the movie A Chinese Ghost Story, Liu Chen showed off his skills. The fighting in Jianghu and the fight between good and evil in the film were wonderful and exciting, which became an important factor in the success of the film. From that time on, Liu Chen also took on the role of the action director through his mastery of the Liu family class. But A Chinese Ghost Story was not a real martial arts film, and there were not many fighting scenes. The smiling, proud wanderer was the real test for him, and the existing 20 to 30 members of the Liu family class were far from enough to support Liu Chen's grand martial arts IP plan. These young people who came from all over the country with dreams and enthusiasm were undoubtedly seeds. For seeds, Liu Chen was willing to spend time, energy, and even money to cultivate them. The 3 days of training in the martial arts club was just the beginning. To these young students, these 3 days were like a baptism of life. First of all, their horizons had been lifted from the narrow confines of the world, and they had entered a wider and more mystical world. Everyone had seen movies and TV shows, and seen all kinds of special effects in movies and TV shows. However, when they and their companions followed the instructions and performed a few prescribed actions in front of the giant green screen, and then saw the movie-level special effects on the screen, this feeling was really incomparably wonderful. The students suddenly realized that they were so close to their dreams. It was as if they took another step forward, they would be able to step into the circle that countless people envied and enjoy the limelight. This kind of knowledge brought them great stimulation, so they threw themselves into daily training with the greatest enthusiasm. No matter how hard and tired they were, they gritted their teeth and persevered. Even if they fell and rolled on the ground, they would not cry. Most importantly, in these 3 days, Lu Chun had been in the elite martial arts club, supervising their training. "This batch of seedlings is not bad," Wan Yong said to Lu Chun. "At least 70 to 80% of them can meet our requirements. It would be a pity to eliminate them." According to Lu Chen's plan, the Lu family class would select about 20 to 30 people from this batch of students to sign a contract and train them to participate in the filming of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and even train them to become the backbone of the Lu family class in the future. However, Wan Yong did not expect that the selected students would have such good basic qualities, and basically all of them could bear hardships and were willing to learn. Thinking that most of them would be eliminated in the future, he could not help but feel pity. Lu Chen smiled and said, 20 to 30 people is the minimum. It's not a problem to have a few more good seedlings with potential. As long as you choose them, you can pick all of them. If the Lu family class expanded to more than 100 members, it would be more than enough to spend 30 to 40 million a year. Compared with the investment and profit of shooting a movie, it was nothing at all. And in the future, when the Lu family class became famous in the circle, it would be impossible for them to only shoot one movie a year. It might not even be enough to satisfy Lu Chen's big wuxia IP plan. If they really had free time, they could totally do outsourcing tasks or even run a business. There were too many ways to make money. So if there were really good talents, they absolutely could not miss them. Wan Yong laughed and rubbed his hands with satisfaction. The Lu family class was founded by Lu Chun, but the actual manager was Wan Yong, who had always been the head of the Lu family class. Lu Chun trusted him very much. Not only did he give him a generous salary, but he also gave him enough power. A gentleman would die for a bosom friend. Wan Yong also recognized Lu Chun as a boss. Although many people came to poach him in the open and in the dark, and even offered him several times the salary, he was never tempted, because Wan Yong believed that following Lu Chun was the brightest future. In fact, Lu Chun had never let him down, and he would never let Lu Chun down. Speaking of good seedlings, Wan Yong said, "I found a few particularly good ones." Lu Chun's expression changed, and he asked, "Which ones?" Through these few days of observation, he also found a few very outstanding students. He didn't know if there were people that Wan Yong valued. Wan Yong pointed out to Lu Chun, this one, and this one. "Oh yes, and this one called Meng, who this young man is very talented. I want to take him as a disciple." Lu Chun immediately smiled. He waved to the student called Meng, student Meng, who, "Please come here." When he was called by Lu Chun, Meng, who was practicing with the instructor, he didn't notice at first, and only reacted after the instructor reminded him, Teacher Lu is looking for me?" He felt like he was in a dream, and it was very unreal. The instructor said with a smile, "Silly boy, hurry up, the boss must have taken a fancy to you." Meng, whose face instantly turned red. He ran dizzily to Lu Chun and Wan Yong, and stammered, "Lu, Teacher Lu, Instructor Wan, are you looking for me?" The other students in the training ground all showed expressions of envy and jealousy when they saw this. This was the first time Lu Chun called out a student in the 3 days in the elite martial arts dojo. Meng, who was going to hit the jackpot. Looking at the uneasy young man in front of him, Lu Chun asked with a smile, "Your name is Meng Hu, right?" Meng Hu composed himself and quickly replied, "Yes, Meng as in Mencius, tiger as in tiger. I'm 18 years old this year, Nanyue Hongshan Neo Martial Arts School." In his nervousness, he recited his lines from the audition. "Nanyue Hongshan Neo Martial Arts School?" Lu Chun nodded. "I remember that there are quite a few students who passed the audition in your school. You have a lot of talents." Meng Hu didn't know how to answer, so he smiled and scratched his head. Wan Yong rolled his eyes, speechless. This young man was really too inexperienced. Chapter 807. Don't be nervous. Lu Chun smiled and patted the shoulder of the young man in front of him, saying, "Let's spar." Spar? With Lu Chun? Meng Hu couldn't believe his ears. He wondered if he was hallucinating. He was completely dumbfounded for a moment. Wan Yong slapped his shoulder in exasperation. "What are you waiting for? Wan Yong knew that Lu Chen was undoubtedly interested in Meng Hu and intended to give the latter a chance. If he didn't grasp such an opportunity firmly, he would really be struck by lightning. Although Meng Hu was stupid, in Wan Yong's eyes, this 18-year-old boy was honest, willing to endure hardship, and had good talent. He was definitely a promising talent. With Meng Hu's appearance and temperament, he might not be able to become a big star, but he was more than enough to be a qualified martial arts master. The Lu family class needed such fresh blood. Wan Yong's slap woke Meng Hu up. His face instantly turned red. He swallowed his saliva, cupped his fists, and said, "Teacher Lu, please give me some pointers." If it were any other star artist, Wan Yong wouldn't have said such words even if he was in awe, because his Sanda strength was top-notch among the students of Nanyue Hengshan Neo Martial Arts School. He was qualified to compete with a Sanda teacher. How many star artists could compete with a teacher of a martial arts school? But facing Lu Chen, Wan Yong's humble request was sincere because he had seen Lu Chen's videos with billions of views on the internet. He knew how strong Lu Chen was. Meng Hu was going to spar with Lu Chen. With the permission of the instructor, the students in the training area quickly gathered around the ring to watch the spar. Looking at Meng Hu, who had just put on protective gear, they were all extremely envious. Lu Chen also put on simple protective gear. He moved his muscles a few times and asked Meng Hu, "Are you ready?" Meng Hu nodded, but he still looked very nervous. Wan Yong acted as the referee for both sides. He stood between the two, raised his right hand, and slashed down. It had begun. As soon as the competition began, Meng Hu wasn't nervous anymore. He stared at Lu Chen with rapt attention, his gaze concentrated on Lu Chen's shoulders, arms, waist, legs, and so on and so forth. He was like a tiger that was watching every single movement of its prey. Lu Chen nodded to himself. There was a type of athlete who was known as a competition player. Usually, they looked ordinary, but once they were in a competition, they would stand out and perform at an extraordinary level. Meng Hu was undoubtedly such a person. Wan Yong had not misjudged him. Just as Lu Chen was pondering, Meng Hu suddenly took 2 steps forward and closed in on Lu Chen in an instant. With lightning speed, he raised his leg and gave a fierce and powerful side kick to Lu Chen. There was an uproar around the ring. No one expected Meng Hu to be so bold as to actually dare to attack Lu Chen. Wasn't he afraid of hurting Lu Chen, offending someone, and getting kicked out of the competition? If you were smart, you should fight with Lu Chen for a few rounds in such a competition, and then lose. Lu Chen was not only the boss of Chunfei Media, but also a world-famous superstar. Was he someone that could be easily beaten? Meng Hu was simply stupid and bold. Meng Hu's sidekick was blocked by Lu Chen in time. Without thinking, he retracted his right leg with a rebound force, twisted his waist, raised his left arm, and hit Lu Chen's chest with his elbow. His moves were extremely fast, and his attacks were even more fluid, forcing Lu Chen to take a step back. Meng Hu was unforgiving. He pressed forward step by step and waved his fists continuously. His fists tore through the air and created wind. Many people below the ring couldn't bear to watch and scolded Meng Hu in their hearts. They had seen stupid people, but they had never seen such a stupid person. He was addicted to fighting after gaining the upper hand. They really wanted to go up and replace Meng Hu. They would definitely be more smart and sensible than Meng Hu. In the face of Meng Hu's storm-like attacks, Lu Chen fought and retreated at the same time, but he was calm. He countered every move and defended with ease. Both sides fought back and forth for many rounds. Meng Hu, who couldn't take down Meng Hu for a long time, consumed a lot of his qi and blood. His attacks became slightly weaker, and the speed and strength of his punches were a notch lower. But right at this moment, Lu Chen suddenly advanced instead of retreating. He turned his body sideways and lowered his shoulder to cut into Meng Hu's opening, slamming heavily into his chest. Bam! With a muffled sound, Meng Hu, who weighed 150 kilograms, was sent flying and rolled on the ring. Nice! After a moment of silence, there was a sudden burst of applause and cheers around the ring. No one expected the reversal of the battle to come so suddenly. A few seconds ago, Meng Hu still had the upper hand, but in the next moment, he was knocked down by Lu Chen. They didn't even see Lu Chen's moves clearly. Meng Hu's fall was quite ugly. He fell to the ground with a red face and was very upset. At this moment, a hand reached over. At the same time, Lu Chen's smiling face appeared in his sight. Again, Meng Hu grabbed Lu Chen's hand and stood up in a daze. He shook his head in shame and said, "Teacher Lu, I'm too far behind you." Lu Chen smiled and patted his shoulder. "Believe me, you're not that bad." After a pause, Lu Chen asked, "Meng Hu, I'll give you two choices now. One is to continue participating in the recording of Storms of the Eight Directions gathering in the capital, and the other is to withdraw from the show and continue training here. Think about it." Meng Hu was one of the outstanding seedlings that Wan Yong had chosen. His performance in the 3 days of training had been seen by Lu Chen, and he also thought that he was a promising talent. Therefore, Lu Chen gave him two choices. If there were other students present, they might hesitate in the face of such a choice. They didn't know which was the most correct choice, and they might even have other ideas. Of course, staying here to train was not a bad thing, but compared to the opportunity to appear on the show and become famous, anyone would hesitate, right? However, Meng Hu didn't hesitate at all and replied without hesitation, "Teacher Lu, I'm willing to withdraw from the show and train here." He liked the martial arts club, the atmosphere here, and the instructors here. Therefore, he liked to stay here. Lu Chen and Wan Yong looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. Wan Yong nodded and said, "Then you can stay here." In fact, what he really meant was to let Meng Hu become a real member of the Lu family class. This was because Meng Hu had passed the test and submitted a qualified or even excellent answer. Meng Hu scratched his head and revealed a joyful smile. This 18-year-old young man from Nanyue Hengshan Neo Martial Arts School, a child of the old rural area of Gannan, didn't know how important the choice he made at this moment was and how important it would be to his future. From then on, he embarked on a completely different path in life. His exciting story had just begun. Chapter 808. Chun Fei Media and the Central Television Variety Channel jointly produced the reality show The Eight Storms Meet in Beijing. Since it was broadcast, it quickly won a large number of audiences with its strong production team, novel and special ideas, and unique program features, and the ratings kept rising. By the end of March, the ratings of the show exceeded 8%, setting the highest record of the same type of show in the Variety Channel and dominating the top domestic variety show. Many contestants in the show stood out and attracted attention from all sides. Meng Hu's departure did not cause much waves. Although he performed very well in the challenge, he was not as good as those competitors who were better looking, so he did not attract many fans. Lu Chen left at the same time. On March 25th, Lu Chen left the capital for Ningxia in Zhejiang East to attend the opening ceremony of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Before him, the newly formed crew of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer, including director Chen Guoji, had already settled in Ningxia Film City and started to prepare for the shooting of the movie. Ningxia County belonged to Changshan City. The plane that Lu Chen took off from the capital, and after nearly 2 hours of flight, he landed on the runway of Changshan Airport. This time, Lu Chen was very low-key. He did not even follow his assistant. He covered his face with a hat and glasses, and then rushed here alone with a suitcase. Out of the terminal, there was already a car waiting outside the airport. Opening the door of Mercedes-Benz, Lu Chen saw Chen Fei was sitting in the back seat at a glance. Without any superfluous words, they hugged each other tightly. As the saying goes, absence makes the heart grow fonder. They hadn't seen each other for almost a month, so they naturally missed each other very much. Although Chen Fei was so passionate that she wanted to rub herself into Lu Chen's body, her assistant and bodyguard were sitting in the front seat, so she could only suppress her emotions and did not do anything too outrageous. But her bright eyes were so charming that they were about to drip water. She said softly, "I asked you to come earlier, but it took you so long." Lu Chen smiled bitterly and said, "It was because I couldn't get away from it." Although Lu Chen did not serve as a judge for Storms of the Eight Directions gathering in the capital, Under the strong request of Central TV, he still participated in the production and filming of the show as a special guest. Coupled with the matter of Chunfei media, he was very busy in capital city and only came here now. During this time, Chunfei and Lu she had been staying in Ningxian. When they first arrived, they had fun for a few days. After that, they mainly welcomed the arrival of the crew members and arranged for the official shooting. They had no time to go back to Beijing. It had taken more than a year for the smiling, the proud wanderer to start shooting. According to the plan, the first movie, sort of Mount Hua, would be released in the summer. It was almost April, so the time for shooting and production was very tight. Fortunately, the long period of preparation was sufficient. The crew and funds were abundant, and the director, actors, and script were all top-notch. Once they entered the shooting phase, the speed would be very fast. Considering the difficulty of the post-production, Lu Chun was also prepared to release it during the National Day instead of the summer. The quality and effect of the film were the most important. However, whether it was during the summer or the National Day, the two of them would have a lot of work in the next few months. Even if they were reunited after a long time, they didn't have much time to be intimate. Chunfei sighed and said, "Work is always busy. We might as well quit the entertainment circle." Lu Chun was amused by her angry words and said, "I don't have a problem with that. Are you willing to quit?" To be honest, if Chunfei was really tired of standing in the spotlight, he was willing to give up his career and quit the entertainment circle with her. They would live a retired life far away from the hustle and bustle. No matter how important his career was, how could it be compared to his lover? They had earned so much money that they couldn't spend it all in several lifetimes. What kind of life couldn't they live? It was a pity that Chunfei was absolutely reluctant, especially at this time. She rolled her eyes at Lu Chun and said, "Can I just say it? Really?" The woman was unreasonable, and God couldn't do anything about it. Lu Chun had to change the topic. "Did you have fun here? How are my grandparents?" Lu Chun's grandparents were still alive. The Fong family was a big family in Ningxian. Lu Chun had a lot of uncles and aunts, and even more cousins. But in the past, Lu Chun's family didn't have much contact with Ningxian. They just visited their relatives on New Year's Day. This time, Chunfei followed Lu Shi to Ningxian and visited Lu Chun's grandparents. The two old people are very nice. They're very kind and amiable. Chunfei said with a smile, "They are in good health. Grandma also gave me a pair of jade bracelets. She was talking about when you would come. Let's go and see them tomorrow." Lu Chun nodded and said, "Well, I have to go back to Benhai on the Qingming festival next month." Chunfei held his hand and said, "I'll go with you." Looking at his girlfriend, Lu Chun smiled and said, "I'll go with you." The Mercedes-Benz drove out of the spacious and straight airport road, turned to the southwest, and entered the expressway. Soon, it merged into the rushing traffic. After half an hour, the car got off the expressway and arrived at Ningxian City. Ningxian was surrounded by mountains on three sides, and only the northeast had an exit. Most of the landforms here were mountains and rivers, and there were large, undeveloped virgin forests. Because there was no large-scale industrial damage, the surrounding environment and natural scenery were very good. Ningxian Film and Television City was located at the foot of Qingming Mountain, and it was an important part of Ningxian's scenic area. The main members of the smiling, proud wanderer stayed in the hotel in the Film and Television City. This 37-story, 5-star hotel was one of the landmarks of Ningxian County. The government invested a lot in it. They had hoped that the opening of the Film and Television City would attract a large number of tourists, but it turned out to be contrary to their wishes. Therefore, this time the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer chose Ningxian Film and Television City, which was undoubtedly important to Ningxian County. The government also attached great importance to it and tried their best to cooperate with the crew. Even Chun Guoji specially called Lu Chun and praised him for choosing a good place. If it were in other big film and television cities, there would be no such high standard of treatment. As soon as Lu Chun got out of the car, he saw a long red banner hanging outside the hotel to welcome the crew. It was very eye-catching. Maybe it was pretentious, but he always felt that this time he came back to Ningxian to shoot the smiling, proud wanderer was not as friendly and familiar as before. Everything had changed. Chapter 809. Ding dong, in the luxurious suite on the top floor of the Qingning Hotel, the doorbell rang softly. Lu Chun, who had just changed into a new set of clothes, walked over and opened the door. He saw Lu Shi standing at the door with a Gucci bag. Seeing Lu Chun, his sister asked, "Are you done? If you are, let's go." Lu Chun said quickly, "Almost done." Chun Fei came out of the bedroom and came to Lu Chun's side with light steps. She said softly, "I'm done." She was wearing a plain lady's spring dress today, which made her graceful figure look even taller. Although she only had a little makeup on, her face was glowing and her eyes were full of spring. She looked extraordinarily beautiful. Even Lu Shi, who was already very familiar with her, had her eyes lit up. She couldn't help but ask, "Why do you look so different? You're much more beautiful. What kind of elixir did you take?" Chun Fei's pretty face suddenly flushed. She didn't know how to answer her sister's question. She couldn't say that it was because she had a good time with Lu Chun last night and was moistened by the rain and dew. So, she was so beautiful. Wouldn't that be shameful? Lu Chun coughed twice awkwardly and said, "Sister, let's go." Lu Shi was stunned for a moment before she understood. She also blushed. She rolled her eyes at Lu Chun and said, "Let's go, let's go." If it were another experienced woman, she would definitely not ask such a question. The problem was that Lu Shi had never been in a relationship, so she was so slow in this regard. The three left the hotel together and took the nanny car to the home of Lu Chen's grandparents. Lu Chen's grandfather, who was also Fang Yun's father, used to be the deputy director of the Ningxia County Local Taxation Bureau, but he retired a long time ago. Now he lived with Lu Chen's grandmother in the Jingming district of Ningxia County. Speaking of which, Lu Chun hadn't been here for a long time, especially after the Lu family's accident. His contact with his grandparents was limited to the phone. Grandpa and Grandma treated Lu Chen's mother, Fang Yun, very well. In private, they took out a lot of their savings to help Fang Yun. However, the Lu family owed too many debts, and it was a drop in the bucket. Moreover, because of this, he had a conflict with Lu Chen's uncle and aunt. This time, Lu Chun came back to Ningxia to shoot the smiling, proud wanderer, so it was reasonable for him to visit his parents first. He had bought a lot of gifts in the capital before coming here, and he brought them all today. Before Lu Chun came, Lu Shi had brought Chun Fei here once. This was the second time. What Lu Chun didn't expect was that when he knocked on his grandfather's door, the person who opened the door was actually his uncle, Fang Xinho. He couldn't help but ask in surprise, "Uncle, why are you here?" Fang Xinho said with a smile, "We knew you were coming today, so we all came." At this time, Lu Chun noticed that the living room of his grandfather's house was full of people. Familiar and unfamiliar faces were all smiling. It could be said that it was a crowded house. Uncle, big cousin, Lu Chun felt dizzy. Through the gap in the crowd, he noticed his grandfather and grandmother sitting on the sofa. When Lu Chun, Chun Fei, and Lu Shi entered the room, the living room directly boiled up. Everyone greeted them enthusiastically, and it was so noisy that his ears were numb. Some people even came out of other rooms. A few young people hid in the corner, secretly taking pictures with their mobile phones. They probably wanted to show off in their WeChat moments. Seeing so many relatives, Lu Chen's face was stiff from smiling. He had some impressions of most of the people present, but he hadn't seen most of them for several years. Many people felt strange, especially his cousins. Everyone was very polite and enthusiastic. Lu Chun couldn't put on airs, especially in front of the elders. He had to greet them, making it almost like a fan meeting. Fang Xinho couldn't stand it anymore. He stopped a few juniors so that Lu Chun could take Chun Fei to see the main character. Grandfather, grandmother, Lu Chun greeted respectfully. "Fei and I have come to see you. How have you been recently?" Lu Chun's grandfather was 70 years old. He had white hair and was very thin, but he was in good spirits and very strong. He said with a smile, "We are all very good. In fact, you don't have to come to see us. Last week, Lu Shi and Fei have already come. You made such a big fuss. Grandpa looked at the juniors around him with a little dissatisfaction and said, "You were so busy with work. It's not too late to come when you have time. This time, you can come to Ningxian to shoot a movie and help promote Ningxian tourism. This is very good and meaningful, old man." Grandpa was worthy of being an official. As soon as he opened his mouth, he had a long-winded posture. Unfortunately, before he could enjoy it, he was interrupted by his grandmother next to him with dissatisfaction. "Little Chun came to see us. Why are you talking to him like an official?" She smiled at Lu Chun and said, "Little Chun, sit down with Fei. Tell Grandma how you have been recently." Grandfather had an embarrassed look on his face. Lu Chun said with a smile, "It's okay, Grandma. By the way, I brought something for you and Grandpa." What he brought for the two old people was mainly nourishing health products. Although it was not very expensive, it was also a sincere intention, which made Grandma very happy. It was a pity that Fong Yin didn't come today, otherwise it would have been very reunion. As for other uninvited relatives, he was really sorry. Lu Chen didn't expect them to be here at all. It was impossible for them to prepare gifts in advance. He didn't lack money. However, the relatives who rushed over after hearing the news today didn't want Lu Chen's gifts. Most of them had other intentions. Lu Chun and Chun Fei had just sat down when an aunt pulled her 17 or 18-year-old daughter and squeezed over. She couldn't wait to say, "Little Chun, this is your cousin Xiaoyu. She is a senior in high school this year and is ready to go to the Film Academy. I wonder if you have any connections at the Beijing Film Academy?" Lu Chun, It was Chun Fei who reacted quickly. She immediately smiled and said, "Annie, I know a few teachers at the Beijing Film Academy. If Xiaoyu wants to apply, then I can introduce them, but the difficulty of applying to the Beijing Film Academy is really too high. Even if I apply, I might not be able to get in." Chen Fei was definitely being modest. With her current popularity, it was very easy to get a diploma at the Beijing Film Academy. The latter would definitely welcome her with both hands. However, the difficulty of applying to the Beijing Film Academy was not lower than the top universities in Beijing. In some aspects, it was even more demanding, such as appearance. Lu Chen's cousin's appearance was not bad. She was considered pretty, but it was really difficult to get into the Beijing Film Academy, where there were many beautiful women, unless she was especially talented in the performing arts. Chen Fei said it politely and tactfully, but the young lady was still a little unconvinced. Although she didn't say anything, her expression showed that she was probably spoiled. Lu Chun smiled bitterly and felt helpless. This was just the beginning. Chapter 8:10. Lu Chun and she didn't stay at their grandparents' house for lunch. They left with Chun Fei after leaving behind bags of gifts on the grounds that they were too busy with work. It couldn't be helped. There were too many people at home. Lu Chun was sweating all over. In the end, even his grandfather couldn't stand it anymore. In order to avoid embarrassing situations, it was best to leave early. Anyway, he would be in Ningxian during this period of time. If he wanted to see his grandparents, he could come back at any time. This was the helplessness of the human relationship society. As the saying goes, no one cares about the poor living in the busy city, but the rich living in the deep mountains have distant relatives. When the Lu family was prosperous, relatives from Ningxian often came to Binhai to visit them. Once the family declined, it was just a matter of the fickleness of the world. Now Lu Chen is 10 times more prosperous than Lu Qingxing when his career was at its peak. Many relatives who have disappeared naturally came back again, just to rub off some light and get some benefits. For these relatives, Lu Chun and she didn't have the slightest good impression. They just politely dealt with them on the surface. Only elders like Feng Xinho, who were close to them, would really help them. "These people are really like flies." Back in the car, She said angrily, "When our family had an accident, there weren't many people who even called to ask. Now I don't know where they came from. Everyone says that we owe them." Some of these relatives wanted to ask Lu Chun to do things through his connections. Some wanted Lu Chun to invest, and some wanted to get a position in Shinfei Media. Some were even asked to introduce someone to the crew as an actor. And it had to be a role with enough scenes. How could Lucy not feel angry with such demands? It was not easy for her to endure until now. Lu Chen smiled and said, "We didn't promise them anything. Don't be angry." Lucy was distressed. If we can't meet their demands, they will definitely gossip behind our backs. I'm not afraid of it, but I'm afraid it will affect your image. Now, it was the age of the internet. No matter who shouted on the internet, people all over the world might hear it. If some relatives here talked nonsense on the internet, it would easily put Lu Chen in a passive position. This kind of thing was not unprecedented in the entertainment industry. Lu Chen shook his head. It doesn't matter. Anyway, we can expect everyone to say good things. Chun Fei-er agreed. Sister Lu Shi, don't worry. If something really happens, our company's PR department will not be easy to deal with. Moreover, Lu Chen's popularity and image can't be easily shaken. When she was popular, she had also suffered from online rumors. Now, her mentality was very indifferent. As long as she had a clear conscience, she would naturally not be afraid of slander and slander. Lu Shi waved her hand and said, "Let's not talk about this. Let's go eat. I'm so angry now." Lu Chen and Chun Fei couldn't help smiling. After lunch in the hotel, Lu Chen met with the crew in Ningxia Film City in the afternoon. The main body of Ningxia Film and Television City covered an area of more than 2,000 mu. Although it was not as large as several famous film and television shooting bases in China, it also had its own characteristics. It was well integrated with the feng shui treasure land of Qingning Mountain Scenic Area. The actual area for shooting was much larger. At present, the first phase of the film and television city had completed the construction of the ancient city, Mingqing Palace Park, Mingqing Ancient Street, Minghua Avenue, Wilderness Ancient Battlefield, and other shooting attractions, as well as a large modern studio. Although it was not comprehensive, there were still a lot of types of films that could be shot. The main problems faced by this newly built film and television city were that its popularity was too small and its location was too remote. If it was in the eastern part of Zhejiang, the situation would be much better. Moreover, the investment budget was far from enough. The total investment of the major domestic film and television cities had reached tens or even tens of billions. In comparison, Ningxia Film and Television City was really small. Naturally, it was difficult to attract large film crews to come and shoot. However, these shortcomings basically did not have much impact on the smiling, the proud wanderer. In fact, it was even beneficial. If it were Jinling Film and Television City, how could they concentrate all their resources, including the government level, to serve a film crew? Now, the Ningxia Film and Television City was equivalent to the crew of the smiling, the proud wanderer. They could shoot whatever they wanted without any restrictions. They could shoot as long as they wanted. Therefore, when Lu Chen chose to shoot the smiling, the proud wanderer in Ningxia, it was not only because he wanted to support half of his hometown, nor was it because he wanted to take care of his relatives. Inside the set, the crew members were busy setting up the background. Several escort cars were parked at the corner of the street. 2 lifelike stone lions were guarding the mansion. On the plaque hanging under the eaves of the corridor, the words Fu Wei Escort Agency were particularly eye-catching. In front of the door, an escort flag was fluttering in the wind. Coming here was like walking into a time tunnel, which made people unable to help but marvel at the magic of the film. Boss Lu, Teacher Lu, Sister Fei, seeing Lu Chen, Chun Fei-er, and Lu Shi coming over, the actors and staff members in the crew greeted them warmly. "Brat, you're finally here." Director Chen Guoji was also on the set. He was not so kind to Lu Chen. "So many people are waiting for you. Don't tell me that this is your film. You can shoot it however you want. I don't like to change the plan at will." Here, perhaps only this famous director dared to be rude to Lu Chen. "Director Chen, I'm so sorry." Lu Chen put his palms together and bowed to Chen Guoji to apologize. "It's all my fault. Please rest assured that before this film is finished, I will go east if you tell me to go east. I won't dare to go east if I go west." Chen Guoji couldn't help but laugh. All right. The opening ceremony has been delayed until tomorrow. I guess we won't be able to make it in time for this summer vacation. It doesn't matter if it's a few days later or a few days earlier. According to the original plan, the smiling, proud wanderer should have started shooting at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, due to the lack of preparation in all aspects and the schedule conflict between the director and the actors, it was delayed until now. Chen Guoji was not really angry. He was just deliberately establishing his authority. On the set, the director should have the supreme power. He just wanted to see if Liu Chen would cooperate. After all, the role played by Liu Chen in this film was not only the male lead. He was also the assistant director, the action director, the scriptwriter, the soundtrack, and the main investor. To Chen Guoji's relief, Liu Chen respected and cooperated with him very much. In this way, everyone could work together and make this martial arts film great. Chapter 811. In addition to director Chen Guoji, Liu Chen also met other main cast members of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. The first part of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, sort of Mount Hua, was definitely a star-studded cast. Liu Chen, Chun Fei-er, Liu Gangsheng, and Tan Hong were all well-deserved superstars. Together with the famous director Chen Guoji, it could be said to be the most anticipated domestic blockbuster this year. In addition, Shi Fong intended to play the role of Indigo Phoenix in this movie, so there was another shining name on the cast list of Sword of Mount Hua. In addition to several famous leading roles, the important supporting roles in the movie were also famous. For example, Gu Yongjun, who played the role of Yu Buqian, Ma Rongjin, who played the role of Chu Yang, and Xia Jingyao, who played the role of Lin Chan, were all real veteran actors with fame and acting skills. In fact, since Chun Fei Media released the news of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, many entertainment agencies and even stars took the initiative to recommend themselves. Even if it was an ordinary supporting role, there would be people fighting for it. Of course, Chun Fei Media chose the best of the best. They chose senior actors who could match the roles. In the selection of young actors, they basically didn't consider the popular so-called fresh meat. They paid more attention to the price-performance ratio. There were several agents of young, fresh meat actors who came uninvited, but the conditions they offered made people speechless. There was a very popular young actor in his 20s who was willing to play the role of Lin Pingji through his agent. His appearance and temperament were quite suitable for the role, and his market value was high enough. At that time, Liu Shi was also a bit tempted. But the agent asked for 50 million plus 5% of the box office, which made Liu Shi unable to continue the negotiation. If the box office of Sword of Mount Hua was calculated according to 1 billion, excluding the cost, it would be 50 million. Plus the basic salary of 50 million, it would be 100 million. If the box office results brought by the 100 million yuan spent on filming and special effect were not as good as the market appeal of this actor, then Chun Fei Media could really go to sleep and not make any movies in the future. Moreover, if he was given 100 million, then how much would Liu Chen, Chun Fei-er, and Liu Gangsheng need? Therefore, although the agent said that they could negotiate, Liu Shi still refused. She only mentioned it to Liu Chen afterwards and didn't take it to heart. Of course, Liu Chen was very supportive of his sister. He had always been in charge of the films and TV series, and he had never spent a huge amount of money on the choice of actors. Instead, he had paid more attention to the pre-filming and post-production. Most importantly, in the film and television industry, there were many talented but not famous actors. Their salaries were often very reasonable, and their professionalism was far better than those so-called fresh meat who were spoiled by their fans. At the same time, there were also a large number of people struggling at the bottom. They were even willing to give up all the rewards and benefits for a small role. All they wanted was a chance. Liu Chen was known as the golden touch and star-making machine in the circle. In the end, the role of Lin Pingji was won by a newcomer who graduated from the Capital Film Academy 2 years ago. Before joining the crew of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, he had only played a few small supporting roles in several films and TV series, barely better than a cameo without lines. It was not easy for him to get this important role, and the story could even be made into a TV series. But there were also some people who got in easily. Brother Lu Chun, sister Fer. A bald head popped out from behind Chun Guoji and greeted Lu Chun and Chen Fei shyly. Lu Chun took a closer look and couldn't help laughing. What a pretty little nun. Dressed in a white monk's robe and shaved off her beautiful black hair, this young nun without any makeup and a shy face was Mu Xiaochu, who played Yilin. According to the script, Yilin was a very important supporting female character in the Sword of Mount Hua in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Her scenes were only a little less than that of the first supporting female character, Yulin Shan. It was reasonable to say that the choice of actors should be very careful. But when Lu Chan wrote the script about Yilin, the first person he thought of was Mu Xiaochu. Even in terms of character creation, he also incorporated the characteristics of Mu Xiaochu. Of course, Mu Xiaochu could also play this role. She was the soul of the first girl group MSN in the domestic pop music industry. She had shot many music videos and commercial advertisements, and had also played roles in many films and TV series. She did not lack acting experience and talent. The most important thing was that she was recognized by fans as Lu Chen's sister and everyone's sister. A role like Yilin, which made people feel sorry for her, was most suitable for her. What Lu Chen didn't expect was that she actually shaved off her favorite long hair in order to play this role well. Lu Chen couldn't help asking, "Xiaochu, are you taking a photo for your makeup?" Mu Xiaochu nodded and asked shyly, "Is it ugly for me to shave my head?" In fact, with the current makeup and special effects technology, it was fine for Mu Xiaochu not to shave her hair, but she resolutely made such a decision in order to pursue the most realistic effect. "How can it be ugly?" Without waiting for Lu Chun to answer, Chanfer smiled and took her hand. "I'm the most beautiful little nun I have ever seen, and the most beautiful in all the movies." Chen Guoji said with a smile, "Xiaochu is very good. You're a good material." This great director rarely praised people, especially newcomers. It was not easy to get a word of praise from him. But Chen Guoji also liked Mu Xiaochu. The little girl had an excellent character and was willing to work hard, so he naturally encouraged her. Mu Xiaochu was even more embarrassed, and the young actors around her were all envious of her. With a brother like Lu Chun, she could get whatever she wanted in today's entertainment industry. Even Chen Fei also regarded her as a sister and was not jealous of her relationship with Lu Chun. In the past, there were people who hyped up the so-called gossip, but they were severely slapped in the face. How lucky Mu Xiaochu was. "Teacher Lu, Sister Fei." The next moment, another beautiful girl came out of the crowd. It was Tong Xinyao. Tong Xinyao was signed by Chun Fei Media. Not only did she release a hot single, but she also played a role in You from the Star. She was regarded as one of the brightest stars in the entertainment industry. This time, Chun Fei Media invested in the Smiling, Proud Wanderer trilogy, and she naturally got a big piece of cake. The role of the first supporting actress, Yuling Shan. Chapter 8:12. With the arrival of Lu Chun, everything was ready for the first movie of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, except for the shooting. The opening ceremony was set on March 28th, and the location was Ningxia Film and Television City. A normal opening ceremony was actually not complicated. The main actors and staff of the crew would gather together, and several media would be invited to interview them on the spot. After that, they would pray to the gods and burn incense. There was no need to make it extravagant, because it would be a waste. If they had the money to squander, it would be better to spend it on online media. The publicity effect would be several times better. But the opening ceremony of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, was extraordinary. It was directly made into a grand opening ceremony. Hundreds of domestic media were invited, plus more than a dozen from Hong Kong and Taiwan. It was a great momentum. Not only the media, but many important officials of Ningxia County, including Luo Rong, the head of the county, attended the ceremony at the same time. There was also a publicity minister of Changshan City, which was the superior city of Ningxia. The treatment was very high. Of course, these local officials were not there to chase stars. They mainly wanted to take this precious opportunity to promote Ningxia Film and Television City and Ningxian scenic area to the outside world, so as to promote the development of tourism in Ningxian. According to the plan of Ningxian County, tourism would become one of the important economic pillars of Ningxian County in the next 10 years. They regarded the smiling, the proud wanderer, which was about to start shooting, as a lever to promote tourism in Ningxian, so there was no doubt about the strength of their support. Apart from other things, the rent for the crew to stay in Ningxian Film and Television City was so low that it made Lu Shi feel embarrassed. The hotel rooms booked by the main actors were also heavily discounted. In addition to other considerate services, the crew could save at least a few million yuan. What Ningxian County asked for was that the smiling, the proud wanderer could shoot a few more scenes in Ningxian and stay for a longer period of time. Of course, Ningxian County would not suffer because of this. After the news spread, the number of searches for Ningxian increased by at least 100 times on the search engine. Especially the photo that Chen Feier posted on her blog and the poem that Lu Chen wrote for her. The number of tourists who came to Ningxian recently increased exponentially. All the hotel rooms in the Ningxian Film and Television City were booked out. Other hotels in the county were also doing well. The tickets for the scenic area, which was originally quite quiet, were now selling like hotcakes. Big numbers of tourists who drove by themselves increased. Just the immediate benefits could be seen, not to mention the long-term impact. The more Ningxian County paid, the greater the return they would get in the future. Therefore, under their strong request, the opening ceremony was made into an opening ceremony. As for Qinfei Media, of course, they were willing to cooperate because things like setting up the venue, maintaining security, entertaining media reporters, and so on were all covered by the government. It didn't require the crew to spend much thought and budget. At most, they could use Lu Chun and Chen Feier's connections to invite well-known media. This time, a lot of media came to participate in the opening ceremony. Reporters from several major portals and social networking websites were there. From major websites and social networking websites. Net, Ynetshi. Net, Waves 1, Fei and Web. There were 300 to 400 people sent by various media. There were hundreds of people from the crew and hundreds of guests. As for the audience who heard the news and came to the scene to watch the ceremony, including the local people of Ningxian, this newly completed film and television city ushered in the most lively and noisy moment since its opening. Flowers, prayers, colored arches, salutes, high rostrum. If it weren't for the big words written clearly on the big red banner, it would be hard to believe that this was an opening ceremony for a movie. Changshan TV station was broadcasting this event live. In the noise of gongs and drums, the ceremony officially began. First, the leaders gave a speech. This was also a local characteristic. After all, the smiling, proud wanderer was produced in Ningxian Film and Television City, which was also a political achievement of the local government. If they didn't take the opportunity to show their faces and promote it, what was the point of working so hard and hard? Fortunately, several leaders knew that the media reporters were not easy to deal with. Especially these major portals, they really didn't take them seriously. Therefore, each of their speeches was concise and comprehensive, and it was over in a few minutes. And then it was back on track. The process of the opening ceremony did not need to be elaborated. Basically, it followed the usual routine. The focus was still on the media interviews. Mr. Lu Chun, it's almost April. Lu Chun, Chen Feier, Chengguish, Mu Xiaochu, Tong Xinyao, and other main actors sat in a row behind the long table, facing the cameras and questions of the reporters. The first one who jumped out was a reporter from EasyNet Entertainment. Before the host's voice died away, she couldn't wait to ask, "There is not much time left. Can the smiling, proud wanderer be released in the summer as scheduled?" Facing her sharp question, Lu Chun smiled and said, "You should ask Director Chen this question, but I can also answer you. The screening time of the first film of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer is decided by the shooting and production. First of all, we have to ensure the quality and effect of the film. We will never make a shoddy production just to meet the schedule." Lu Chen's answer made the reporters in an uproar. The female reporter from EasyNet immediately asked, "So you won't meet the schedule in the summer?" Is it a skip? A skip? Before Lu Chen could answer, Chen Guoji raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "When did we say that the smiling, proud wanderer will be released in the summer? Film is a rigorous art. Even commercial films can't just follow the fast food route. We have prepared for such a long time, and we want to make a real masterpiece. Even if the screening time is delayed, it doesn't matter as long as it's worth the money spent by the audience." After being rebuked by Chen Guoji, the female reporter from EasyNet Entertainment sat back in embarrassment. She dared to talk back to Lu Chen, but she dared not to talk back to Chen Guoji. Because Chen Guoji was very influential in the film and television industry, and he had a lot of connections. She didn't dare to offend him. So if she made things difficult for Lu Chen, people would applaud her, but if she disrespected Chen Guoji, the result would not be good. In a sense, Lu Chen tried his best to invite Chen Guoji to be the director of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer because he wanted to use Chen Guoji's influence to protect this important new wuxia blockbuster. The effect was great. Then another reporter raised his hand and stood up. He asked, "Mr. Lu Chen, what is your expectation of the box office of this film? Can you tell us?" This question was not easy to answer. Everyone's eyes were immediately focused on Lu Chen. Chapter 8:13. Apart from those fake movies, the box office results of domestic movies were actually quite difficult to predict. No director or big stars dare to say that they could completely grasp the audience's preferences. And the factors that affected the box office of a movie were not only limited to the movie itself. In 2015, there was a domestic blockbuster with an investment of $350 million. The combination of a big director and a big star stole the limelight. The early publicity was even more vigorous, and there was even a top cinema chain among the investors. Both inside and outside the circle were very optimistic about the box office of the movie. The media all thought that it would be a record-breaking film. As a result, the box office in the first 3 days was indeed very gratifying. It earned hundreds of millions. However, the audience's reputation was very bad, and soon there was a steep decline. When it was finally released, the total box office was barely over $500 million. It could be said that it was a big loss. On the contrary, there were some movies that did not have much publicity before the release, and there were not many stars in the movie, but they became very popular in the market and made a lot of money. Therefore, with these precedents, people were very cautious when it came to box office predictions. Unless it was for the purpose of hype, they would try to be as modest as possible. Nowadays, many audiences, especially the young ones, had a rebellious mentality. If you exaggerated too much, they would feel that it was tasteless, so they would not contribute to the box office. Therefore, the question that the reporter asked Lu Chen was really difficult to answer. If Lu Chen said it was high, he would be suspected of being overconfident. If he said it was low, then the media would have something to say. Was there something wrong with his lack of confidence? To this, Lu Chen answered seriously, "About this question before you asked me, I really didn't think about it carefully. My attitude towards movies has always been to do my best, and then let the audience judge. If the audience's evaluation is good, then the box office will naturally be high, and vice versa." When everyone thought that Lu Chen was using Tai Chi to avoid this question, Lu Chen continued, "But since you asked, my expectation for The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer is 1-to-1. 5 billion. 1-to-1. 5 billion. There were soft exclamations among the reporters, and there were whispers of discussion. Based on the current film market, Lu Chen's expectation for the first film of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, was quite high. After all, Sword of Manhua only invested $150 million in publicity. A production cost of $150 million versus a box office of $5 billion. That was definitely a huge profit. Was Lu Chen really not afraid of failing? However, Lu Chen had not finished his words. A box office of 1-to-1. 5 billion yuan. In addition, I also hope that The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer will have peripheral sales no less than a Chinese ghost story. A Chinese ghost story. It was only then that everyone remembered that Lu Chen's confidence was not without reason. This was not his first time making a movie. His first work, A Chinese Ghost Story, had a total box office of more than 1 billion yuan, and its peripheral sales exceeded 150 million yuan. Not only did it set a record for the peripheral sales of domestically produced films, it even left most of the imported Hollywood blockbusters behind. At first, there were a few reporters who couldn't wait to ask Lu Qin questions about the box office, trying to find something to hype up, but now they were all silent. The box office of A Chinese Ghost Story was real. It was not fake at all, especially the peripheral sales. At that time, many people didn't believe it. Some media even conducted a special investigation and found that there was no fraud. At that time, Lu Qin could only be considered a newcomer in the film industry. His foundation was far from being as strong as it was now. Then who dared to say that The Proud Wanderer was definitely not as good as A Chinese Ghost Story? So it seemed that Lu Qin was really not too confident about the box office of The Proud Wanderer's first film of 1-to-1. 5 billion yuan. It was not a problem to say that he was being modest. After all, the cast of The Proud Wanderer was far from what A Chinese Ghost Story could compare to. In terms of publicity, the former was even better than the latter. The reporters were speechless for a moment. Fortunately, someone came to the rescue in time. He stood up and asked Chen Guoji, "Director Chen, may I ask why you decided to direct The Proud Wanderer?" In fact, this reporter wanted to know how much Chen Fei Media had paid to invite this big shot. After Chen Guoji changed to a commercial blockbuster, there were always investors carrying suitcases full of money in front of his house. If there was any inside story, he believed that the gossipy public would be happy to hear it. Chen Guoji was a shrewd character. Of course, it was impossible for him to be asked such a question. He smiled and said, "I am directing The Proud Wanderer on the one hand because Chen Fei Media is very sincere, and I'm also very happy to work with young and powerful actors like Lu Qin and Chen Fei." After flattering Lu Qin and others, Chen Guoji continued, "In addition, I like The Proud Wanderer very much. I think this novel is very well written. It has created a new trend of wuxia. To have the opportunity to direct The Proud Wanderer is both an opportunity and a challenge for me. I'm very willing to face such a challenge." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a warm applause. This kind of scene was very rare in media interviews, but Chen Guoji was not an ordinary director. The interview continued. The reporter's questions were naturally mainly focused on Chen Guoji, Lu Qin, and Chen Fei. However, as supporting actors, Mu Xiaochu and Tong Xinyao also got some questions. Their answers were in line with the norm. They did not dare to act out of line on such an occasion. When the interview was about to end, a reporter asked Lu Qin, "Lu Qin, it is said that you will marry Chen Fei after The Proud Wanderer. Is it true?" What? This question was interesting. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Qin again, including Chen Fei. Lu Qin was speechless. Who made up this rumor? Who made up this rumor? Although he was speechless, he still had to answer the reporter's question. He thought for a while and said, "Thank you for your attention on my personal feelings, Chen Fei, and I will give you an answer at the appropriate time. But now our job is to make this movie well and not disappoint the fans who have been waiting for a long time." The reporters were disappointed at first. It was a bit of a pity that they could not dig out the big news from Lu Qin's mouth. When the best couple in the entertainment circle would get married was undoubtedly the question that countless people cared about. But it was not so easy to dig out the big news. After the media interviews, the opening ceremony of The Proud Wanderer was completed. But then Lu Qin and Lu Shi attended a signing appointment on the spot. Chen Fei Media invested 375 million to buy 35% of the shares of Ningxia Film and Television City, sold by Ningxia County Government. Chapter 814. As the most important investment project in Ningxia County, Ningxia Film and Television City had been invested more than 500 million yuan. The purpose was to create a future economic growth hotspot in Ningxia County. County Magistrate Luo Rongjing was the promoter of this project. It could be said that it was a political achievement project led by him. The success or failure was closely related to his political future, so he attached great importance to it. Before Qinfei Media entered the Ningxian film and television city, this business card, built with a lot of money for Ningxian tourism, was in a very awkward situation. The income generated after the operation was not enough to cover the daily expenses, let alone recover the investment costs and loans. Luo Rong's position in the officialdom was shaky. That was why he went all the way to the capital to fight for the live shooting of The Smiling, the proud wanderer in Ningxian. At the beginning, he promised that he was willing to sell shares of the film and television city to Qinfei Media, and even let Qinfei Media be the controlling shareholder. In fact, from the situation at that time, Luo Rong was completely throwing away his burden. He also wanted to completely tie Qinfei Media to the new ship of Ningxian tourism and ride the waves with the help of a strong sail. Now that The Smiling, the proud wanderer, had officially started shooting, the share transaction was natural. Lu Chen and Lucy were originally half of Ningxian people and have a considerable understanding of Ningxian. Some time ago, Lucy brought people to investigate and also determined that Ningxian films and TV plays have considerable investment value. The two sides can be said to hit it off. Most importantly, Chun Fei liked the scenery of Qingning Mountain very much, especially Crooked Creek Town. She even decided to buy an old house in the town and live there when she had time. With a solid foundation for cooperation, the negotiation between Ningxian County and Qinfei Media was very smooth. The conditions offered by Qinfei Media were very favorable. The total investment amount was 500 million, and the proportion of shares was very large. In other words, according to the conditions proposed by Ningxian County government, as long as Qinfei Media invested more than 250 million, they could get 50% of the shares of the film and television city. However, in the actual process of negotiation, Lu Shi proposed a new agreement on behalf of Qinfei Media and re-evaluated the actual value of Ningxian film and television city. Finally, she proposed to Ningxian County to exchange 375 million for 35% of the shares of Ningxian film and television city, and continue to invest in the next 3 years, finally achieving 65% of the shares. In addition, the management unit of the film city, which was originally completely controlled by the government, would be split into a new company to operate and manage the film city and gradually complete the transfer of shares. This made Ningxian County feel incredulous. According to Qinfei Media's agreement, it was equivalent to spending a few hundred million to obtain the same shares. Not only did they not bargain, they even took the initiative to increase the price. According to this agreement, not only would Ningxian County quickly recover all of its investment, but it would also be able to realize profits in 1 or 2 years. Although they had to give up the controlling stake, it would completely revitalize this big project, and it would be more effective in promoting the local economic development. Who would complain about having too much money? Therefore, the contract was finalized very quickly. After the opening ceremony today, the signing ceremony was actually just a formality. The legal documents that should be signed had already been signed. Although it was just a formality, at the dinner after the signing, Luo Rong privately raised the question in his heart to Lu Chun and Lu Shi. Why did Qinfei Media choose to take the initiative to increase the price in violation of the business common sense? Lu Chun and Lu Shi looked at each other and smiled. Lu Shi thought for a moment and said, Mayor Luo, although the initial investment of Ningxian Film City is only 500 million, its true value is far beyond that. The scenery of Qingning Mountain and Crooked Creek is priceless. Our offer is not high, and we are willing to contribute to the development of our hometown as much as we can. The plan for Ningxian Film and Television City included a part of the scenic area of Qingning Mountain, and it was the most beautiful part. Ningxian County did not include the value of this part. It was not that they had overlooked it, but it was a preferential condition to attract investment from Qinfei Media. Ningxian County was full of sincerity, but in the view of Lu Chun and Lu Shi, they could not take advantage of this. Chunfei Media could not be labeled as encroaching on national assets for a few hundred million, and they were even more unwilling to be criticized by others for this contract in the future. Therefore, even if they were treated as fools, Chunfei Media must ensure that this important investment was fair, impeccable, and without any flaws. After listening to Liu Shi's explanation, Luo Rong fell into a long silence. His heart was really filled with emotion. In order to revitalize Ningxian Film City, before contacting Chunfei Media, he had also looked for investors everywhere to recommend this project. It was not that there were no people who were interested, but the conditions they offered were very harsh. Some simply got something for nothing and asked the county government to guarantee and help with loans to complete the acquisition. Compared with those greedy businessmen, what Chunfei Media did could not be described as just kind. He picked up the bottle, poured himself a glass of white wine, raised his glass to Lu Chun and Liu Shi, and said, "You two, I won't say anything else, but this glass of wine is for you. In the future, as long as I, Luo Rong, am still alive, we will always be friends." It was hard to imagine that a dignified county magistrate would say such gangster-like words, but these rather unusual words just happened to express his sincere admiration. Lu Chen smiled and said, "You are too polite. Even if Chunfei Media completes the acquisition of Ningxian Film City, it will not be without your support." Luo Rong laughed and said, "Let's work together, hand in hand." Chunfei Media paid a few $100 million more, not only got an impeccable investment contract, but also the sincere friendship of this provincial official. When time passed, looking back after many years, time would prove everything. There was not much time left for the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer. Although this martial arts movie was going to be delayed to the National Day, many people, including many members of the crew, hoped that it would be released in the summer, because there were several similar movies that followed the trend in the summer. Now that the main character of the movie had dropped out, those following the trend must be proud. How could they bear it? In everyone's mind, the smiling, proud wanderer should be the first masterpiece of the new martial arts movie and should not be beaten by others. Of course, Lu Chun and Chang Guoji knew about the mood of the crew, but they tacitly did not interfere because the high mood was actually very good for the shooting. Of course, the quality of the movie must be guaranteed, and this premise could not be careless. On the basis of guaranteeing the quality, it would be perfect if they could speed up the shooting. That afternoon, the shooting of the smiling, proud wanderer officially began in Ningxian Film City. Chapter 815, Ningxian Film and Television City, Ming and Qing Dynasty Antique Street. The gentle wind blew the willows, and the fragrance of the flowers was intoxicating. It was the spring season of the Southern Kingdom. On the ancient Long Street, a bluestone path stretched out in a straight line. In front of a magnificent mansion, there was a flagpole about 20 feet tall erected on both sides of the stone altar, with a green flag fluttering at the top of the flagpole. On the flag on the right, a majestic lion was embroidered with yellow silk thread. The flag fluttered in the wind, making the lion look even more lively. On the flag on the left, 4 black words were embroidered with Fu Wei Escort Agency. The silver hook and iron stroke were extraordinarily vigorous. On the red lacquer gate of the mansion, the copper nails the size of a teacup were shining. On the plaque on the top of the gate, for golden words Fu Wei Escort Agency were written, and 2 small words Head Office were written horizontally below. There were 2 rows of benches at the entrance, on which sat 8 well-dressed men, each with a straight back, showing a heroic spirit. Note 1. Suddenly, the sound of hooves could be heard as 5 knights filed out from the side door of the escort agency. Among them, the young knight was dressed in a brocade robe with a long sword hanging from his waist. His handsome face had a faint smile on it. More than 10 meters away from the knights, 2 4K digital cameras worth millions of yuan were aimed at them from different positions, capturing the real-time images. Further away, there were all the nervous and busy staff members of the production crew. As the protagonist of today's shooting, Zhao Haichao, who was riding a white horse, had a really complicated mood. He had fantasized, longed, and looked forward to it thousands of times, but when the moment really came, he found that he was not as excited as he had imagined, and even frightened. Perhaps it was because he had been lost, disappointed, and sad countless times. Zhao Haichao was a graduate of the performance department of Beijing Film Academy in 2015. It had been 4 or 5 years since he entered the film and television industry, and he was no longer a newcomer. However, he had shot several films and TV series, but he had never become popular, so his situation could be said to be quite embarrassing. Zhao Haichao's appearance was actually very good. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to defeat hundreds of competitors and be admitted to the acting department of Beijing Film Academy with a high score. However, his luck was not good. The roles he played were all small, supporting roles, and several of his plays were also very bad. He did not accumulate much popularity for several years. His career didn't improve, but his youth flowed away like water. At the end of last year, Zhao Haichao took out all his savings and borrowed a lot of money from his relatives and friends to negotiate with the management company to terminate his contract. The management company that received the compensation did not make things difficult for him. They parted on good terms, so it was not a big deal. The signboard of Beijing Film was very loud, but how many students who graduated every year could make a name for themselves? The competition in this industry was too fierce. There were waves after waves of newcomers entering the industry. If one wanted to make a name for himself, it was impossible to rely on academic qualifications. One had to know how to hype up, have support from others, and be willing to put in the effort. Even then, one might not be able to become famous. Zhao Haichao's family could barely be considered well off. It was not easy for them to provide for Nian Jingying, and there was nothing else they could do. They did not have any connections that they could use. He never counted on his family. He thought that with his own hard work and talent, he would be able to make a name for himself. However, the cruel reality made the once naive youth mature quickly. It was only because of the persistence and stubbornness in his heart that he did not completely abandon his bottom line. 2 months ago, when Zhao Haichao submitted his resume to Chunfei Media's mailbox, he did not expect to get a chance at all, because the movie The Smiling, Proud Wanderer attracted too much attention. For an unknown actor like him, submitting his resume was no different from buying a lottery ticket. At that time, Zhao Haichao had already thought about it. If he couldn't find any opportunity in Beijing, he would accept the invitation of a senior and go to the deep sea in the south to shoot a web drama. Although it was a small role, he could at least earn tens of thousands of yuan. What Zhao Haichao did not even dream about was that only 2 days after he submitted his resume, he received a call from Chunfei Media asking him to go for an interview. When he first received the call, Zhao Haichao thought that someone was playing a prank on him or that he had met a scammer. Then what happened next was just like a dream to him. The interview was successful. There were no tricks or unspoken rules. The salary in the contract was not high, but it was fair and reasonable. The role that he was given was an important male supporting role. Thinking back to the news that he had passed the interview for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, his classmates and friends all thought he was joking. Some even mocked him. Zhao Haichao's smile became brighter and brighter. Ka! A loud voice pulled his attention back, causing his body to involuntarily tremble. I passed. Zhao Haichao immediately let out a big sigh of relief. He quickly pulled the reins to stop the horse and got off cleanly. He learned how to ride a horse when he was shooting a historical film more than a year ago. He suffered a lot and put in some hard work. Although he was not as good as those real riders, he had mastered his skill. At that time, Zhao Haichao thought that it was good to have more skills. He could not be the main character and could not enjoy the treatment of being flattered behind people's backs. If he knew how to ride a horse, he might have more opportunities to show his face. Opportunity came in handy now. In fact, during the interview, he was asked if he knew how to ride a horse. Zhao Haichao thought that this should be one of his points. Well done. Director Chan Guoji stood up from his chair and said to Zhao Haichao, Get ready for the next scene. The next scene is the real test. This sentence was said by Lu Chun to Zhao Haichao. He had been following Chun Guoji all the time. Chun Guoji would only direct the first part of the smiling, proud wanderer, sort of Mount Hua. Lu Chun decided to direct the next two parts by himself. He knew that he was not good at directing, so he invited Chun Guoji to come over and learn from him. Chun Guoji was very good at directing, and he was willing to give advice. Although it had not been long since the shooting started, Lu Chun had already learned a lot. Once this movie was completed, he would have the foundation to direct it independently. Lu Chun was also very satisfied with Zhao Haichao's performance. He was the one who chose Zhao Haichao to play the role of Lin Pingji. It turned out that his judgment was right. This was a piece of unpolished jade. With a little bit of thinking, it would shine. Lu Chun was also looking forward to his performance in the next fight scene. Director Chun, Director Lu, I will try my best. Zhao Haichao nodded. He was pleasantly surprised. In the past, it was not easy for him to meet a famous director like Chun Guoji. He could not even talk to a big shot like Lu Chun. Compared to now, it was like heaven and earth. It was as if he could see a beautiful new world opening up to him. His life will be different from now on. Chapter 816. Ka. The sudden sound was not loud, but Zhao Haichao, who had just thrown out his left palm, shivered subconsciously. His whole body froze, and his face flushed with shame. The shooting location in the afternoon was in a roadside pub. This scene was very important. As one of the main supporting roles, Lin Pingji met Yu Lingshan for the first time, and his fate changed. Therefore, there were more scenes. As the actor of Lin Pingji, Zhao Haichao had suffered more than a dozen NGs in his first fight scene. Although it was very common for actors to suffer NGs, and even the top actors made mistakes, for Zhao Haichao, who was determined to make this role outstanding, more than a dozen NGs were undoubtedly a big setback. Your movements must be clean and neat. Lu Chun stood up from the director's chair and walked quickly to the actors. He gestured with his hands and said, "The leaping action just now was qualified, but the palm was too slow, which made the connection of the moves not smooth enough. It gave people the feeling that it was very stiff." Zhao Haichao suppressed his anxiety and listened to Lu Chen's explanation carefully. He tried to remember and understand, and at the same time he danced and imitated, but his movements were a bit funny. Zhao Haichao had shot fight scenes before, but the movements were very simple, nothing more than punching and kicking, and then speeding up the post-production to add special effects. The smiling, the proud wanderer was completely different. This was a new martial arts movie, completely different from the action movies and the popular martial arts dramas in the 80s and 90s. The essential difference was the fight scenes. The martial arts scenes of the smiling, the proud wanderer were extremely demanding. After getting the role of Lin Pingji, Zhao Haichao had basic training in the Lu family class for nearly 2 months and thought that he had mastered some of the key points. But when the shooting started, he found that he was still not well prepared and couldn't completely let go in front of the camera. "Brother Yong, let's demonstrate." After patiently explaining the key points of the movements, Lu Chun called Wan Yong over. In the first movie of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, Lu Chun was the leading actor and action director, so the whole fight scene in the afternoon was directed by him, and Wan Yong, the head of the Lu family class, was the martial arts director. Wan Yong nodded and replaced Zhao Haichao's opponent to face Lu Chun. Everyone's eyes were focused on the two of them. Zhao Haichao's eyes were fixed on them, afraid that he would miss the slightest detail. Lighting, camera, actors, get ready, action. Although it was just a demonstration, it was still carried out according to the rules. Along with the sound of the clapper, Wan Yong looked at Lu Chun with contempt and sneered. "Fu Wei Security Agency? Never heard of it before. What's that for?" Wan Yong used to be a soldier. After retiring from the army, he became a security coach in the club. Later, he was discovered by Lu Chun and became the class leader of the Lu family's class. Originally, he had no acting experience. However, as the saying goes, practice makes perfect. Liu Jiaban made a name for himself in the industry through a Chinese ghost story. Later, he also participated in the filming of You from the Star and was hired several times, gradually accumulating a lot of experience. Wang Yong was no exception. He recited a few lines very well, portraying his character's fiendish temperament very well. Liu Chun jumped up and shouted, "I specialize in beating up dogs." The next moment, he struck out with his left palm. Without waiting for the move to finish, his right palm had already pierced through the bottom of his left palm. It was the move Heaven and Earth in the Cloud. His movements were as smooth and natural as flowing water. The little actress has some skills. Wang Yong's eyes narrowed. He waved his left hand to block Liu Chen's right palm. At the same time, he quickly grabbed Liu Chen's shoulder with his left hand. Liu Chen immediately lowered his right shoulder and punched with his left hand. It was strong and powerful. Wang Yong hurriedly turned his head to avoid it, but he didn't expect Liu Chen's left fist to suddenly open. When the fist opened, it instantly changed into a palm. The direct attack turned into a sweep, and the move Flowers in the Fog slapped heavily on his face. Actually, it wasn't a real slap, but Wang Yong felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire head was slapped to the side. In anger out of humiliation, he fiercely kicked at Liu Chun. As a result, Liu Chun twisted his body to avoid it and raised his leg to kick back. The surrounding actors, including Zhao Haichao, as well as many extras who played passersby, and the crew were shocked to see this. They really didn't know that martial arts movies were filmed this way. Most of the people present were amateurs. Some of them understood the filming of action movies. Although the punches and kicks on the screen were full of power, they were basically all produced by special effects and sound effects. The actual filming process was actually very boring, and it was completely fixed in the pattern. As for the sparring between Liu Chun and Wang Yong, although it wasn't very fast, it not only gave people the feeling that it was smooth and natural, but also had a kind of artistic rhythm and beauty. It was pleasing to the eye and even made people's blood boil, especially when Liu Chun waved his palms and punched. His fists and palms were vigorous, as if he could blow up his opponent with one punch. Such an effect could be achieved in a normal shooting. With the post-production editing, modification, and special effects, how outstanding would it be? According to the setting of the script, in the first film of the smiling, proud wanderer, Lin Pingji was just a small character, belonging to the third or fourth rate in Jianghu. He was not even a master at all. In that case, what kind of exciting performances would the protagonists who would appear later on perform? It was so exciting. Zhao Haichao involuntarily clenched his fists. He had never been so determined as at this moment. The determination to play this role well. Done. Liu Chun stopped his fists and called Zhao Haichao and his opponent to the front of the monitor. He asked the camera assistant to play back the scene just now. Practice according to it, and reshoot when you meet the requirements. Zhao Haichao nodded hard. Liu Chun then said to the others, "Take a break for half an hour and try to finish this group of scenes in the afternoon." The atmosphere at the scene immediately relaxed. Zhao Haichao and his temporary partner ran to the side and continued to practice together. Wang Yong looked at them, hesitated, and said to Liu Chun, "How about using a double?" If Liu Jiaban replaced Zhao Haichao, these fighting scenes would have been finished long ago. Liu Chun shook his head with a smile and said, "No need for now. He has a good understanding. Give him more time." In order to meet the schedule, time was very precious for the smiling, proud wanderer. But for Liu Chun, it was totally worthwhile and meaningful to spend some time to cultivate a promising new actor. Liu Chun shooting the smiling, proud wanderer was a part of the Great Wuxia IP plan. And the significance of the Great Wuxia IP plan was not to make money for himself, but to promote the wuxia culture to the market, to the whole world. This might be the meaning of his future life. To achieve such a grand goal, it was far from enough to rely on the strength of him and the Liu Jiaban. Chapter 817. Sword from Mount Hua, the first film of the smiling, the proud wanderer, had officially started shooting in Ningxuan studio. It had been nearly a month, but the shooting was not going well. At least it did not reach the planned progress. It was almost certain that it would not be able to enter the domestic cinemas during the summer vacation. This made the morale of the crew a little low. For this blockbuster movie, Chunfei Media had prepared for nearly a year. It could be said that they were quite well prepared in all aspects. However, during the actual shooting process, they still encountered a lot of problems. These problems were mainly focused on the martial arts scenes. Cut. Chun Guaji put down the microphone in his hand, shook his numb legs, stood up, clapped his hands, and said, "That's all for today. We'll continue tomorrow." On the set, both the actors and the crew members breathed a big sigh of relief at the same time. Today's shooting was particularly tiring. There were both literary and martial arts scenes. The two directors, Chun Guoji and Lu Chun, were personally in charge. They attached great importance to it. Naturally, everyone was conscientious and did not dare to slack off. The shooting started at 7 o'clock in the morning, and now it was 9 o'clock in the evening. Everyone's nerves were tense, and they were very tired, both physically and mentally. Now it was finally over. However, after so much effort and sweat, there were not many qualified scenes. They had to reshoot tomorrow. It would be a new round of torture. Luchin also stood up and said, "Everyone go to bed early. Don't stay up late." Of course, he could see that everyone was in low spirits. But that was the way of making a movie. It was not easy to make a real masterpiece. Behind the success, there were often too many unknown hardships. The wonderful things that the audience saw and enjoyed in the cinema needed them to work hard in silence. Lu Chun could only find a way to make up for it. He would not relax his requirements because of this. In fact, many of the scenes shot today were already very good in the eyes of an expert, but they did not achieve the effect that he wanted 100%. It was naturally reasonable that the crew members were under a lot of pressure. At this time, Chun Guoji said to him, "Xiao Lu, let's go back to the hotel and talk for a while." Lu Chun was slightly stunned and quickly replied, "Okay." When he returned to the hotel, it was already 10 p.m. Chun Guoji and Lu Chun did not talk in the room, but in the small dining room. Chun Fei, the producer, the cameraman, the stage manager, and Chun Guoji's assistant were also present. The latter could be considered the director's true confidant. In fact, similar small meetings had been held several times during the filming process. It was so late, and the restaurant of the hotel must have been closed. However, the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer who was stationed here were not ordinary guests. The service provided by the hotel was very good. No matter how late it was not a problem for them to order a meal. Supper was no exception. Chun Guoji was getting on in years. He paid attention to his health and did not have a good appetite. He was full after eating a bowl of mushroom noodle soup. Then he poured himself a cup of Longjing tea and slowly tasted it. Lu Chun and the others knew that he had something to say, so they ate casually to fill their stomachs, asked the waiter to take away the plates, and accompanied him to drink tea. After drinking a cup of tea, Chun Guoji said in a measured tone, "Xiao Lu, we're a lot behind in the filming process. Do you have any thoughts of speeding up?" The filming process was behind mainly because of the part that Lu Chun was responsible for. In addition to acting as the male lead, Lu Chun was also the action director of the smiling, proud wanderer. The action director had appeared in the domestic and foreign film industry for a long time. He was mainly responsible for the design and direction of the fighting scenes in the film. He was the leader in charge of the shooting, scheduling, and editing of all the action scenes. But Lu Chun's action director is different from other peers. According to his definition, the action director of a martial arts film is the person in charge of the design, training, arrangement, scheduling, shooting, editing, and other artistic creative activities of martial arts and action scenes in the creation of martial arts action films, starting from the script, director, actors, scene environment, and other subjective and objective conditions. The importance is no less than that of the director. The smiling, proud wanderer was essentially different from other action films, including ghost and supernatural films. In order to deepen this difference, Lu Chun was very strict in the shooting of the action scenes. As a real martial arts film, the smiling, proud wanderer had a lot of fighting scenes. Liu Chun pursued the authenticity of the action scenes. His goal was to achieve an artistic sense of reality through the processing of art and technology. Therefore, he had to balance the relationship between truth and falsehood and strive to embed the martial arts movements in the logical relationship between the characters and the plot, so as to make all the martial arts movements in the film as natural and exciting as possible. To achieve his goal and meet his requirements, it was undoubtedly a lot of pressure for the actors. The smiling, proud wanderer was not a Chinese ghost story. The background of the film was grand, involving Shaolin, Wudong, Wuyue Sword Sect, Sun Moon Sect, and many other sections. There were a lot of actors in the film, but most of them lacked experience in this aspect. Undoubtedly, the use of stunt doubles could solve a lot of problems, but stunt doubles could not be used from start to finish. They also needed corresponding training and cooperation. In addition, many extras also had to learn the basic routines. In this way, there were really not enough people in the Liu family team. Many times, Liu Chun had to personally demonstrate and help the actors repeatedly correct them. It would be strange if the shooting did not fall behind. Fortunately, the film was fully digital now, and there was no need for film. In the past, who knew how many discs would have been squandered, and the cost would have been unbearable. Slowing down the progress was a problem, but the bigger problem was the psychological pressure of the actors and the crew. Chun Guoji's tone was not heavy, but there was still a hint of questioning in it, which made the atmosphere in the small restaurant become solemn. Was he expressing his dissatisfaction? Liu Chun felt the pressure from this famous director. He thought for a while and replied in a deep voice, "Director Chun, according to the current situation, it is difficult for us to speed up the progress. I think the first thing we need to do is to ensure the quality and effect. We are not rushing the schedule." Liu Chun had said similar words to the reporters before, but now he was answering Chun Guoji. Chun Guoji was the director of the smiling, proud wanderer, and Liu Chun's words inevitably had the suspicion of challenging his authority. Several important members of the crew couldn't help but panic. If the two of them had a conflict over work, could the film continue like this? Liu Chun's answer was too direct. Couldn't he be more tactful, or compromise a little? Chapter 8:18. Chun Guoji stared at Liu Chun, his expression solemn and dignified. As one of the top figures in the domestic film and television circle, Chun Guoji not only enjoyed a good reputation in the Chinese circle, but also internationally. He was once selected as one of the top 10 directors in Asia by a famous foreign magazine. In front of Chun Guoji, no matter how famous an actor was, he couldn't act like a big shot. There were more than one or two movie stars who had been scolded by him, including many famous people. That was the reason why everyone was nervous. Chun Guoji was a man who didn't care about anything. No matter how popular and famous Liu Chun was, he wouldn't have a good time if he offended him. If they really had a conflict, it would be a disaster for the crew of the smiling, the proud wanderer. Liu Chun didn't avoid Chun Guoji's eyes. His eyes were serious and honest. The smiling, the proud wanderer was an important beginning of the Wuxia IP plan. Its success or failure would directly affect the future development of Chun Fame Media, including himself. For this plan, Liu Chun has gone through a long time of preparation and paid a lot of painstaking efforts. The investment in funds alone has reached hundreds of millions. Moreover, in the foreseeable future, the proportion of investment will only increase, so only success cannot be allowed. What was the key to the success of a movie? Some said it was quality, some said it was publicity, some said it was investment, and some said it was luck. Liu Chun thought these were all important, but the most important thing was the attitude towards the movie, a sincere attitude. Without a sincere attitude, how could a good movie be made? Maybe some people made money through publicity and made a shoddy movie, and some people spent money on celebrities to attract attention. But there was a limit to the audience's patience. Those sensationalist things, even if they could be successful for a while, would eventually be abandoned by the market. Only a work done with sincerity could win real recognition and have a long life and influence. Liu Chun hoped that the smiling, The Proud Wanderer was such a work, and he was also working hard for it. Big delay in the progress of the shooting. And if his insistence made Chun Guoji unhappy, or even caused a conflict, he wouldn't compromise no matter how much he respected him. Even if Chun Guoji quit the crew, Chun Guoji suddenly smiled. There was a hint of gratification in his smile, and there was a hint of appreciation in his eyes as he looked at Lu Chun. First, we have to ensure the quality, the great director said with a smile. You're right. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to handle the pressure. Now I'm relieved. It doesn't matter if we miss the schedule. We don't make movies to rush the schedule. His words enlightened everyone, and they couldn't help but smile. The atmosphere in the private room instantly lightened up. Lu Chun smiled and said, "Thank you for your understanding. Why can't I understand?" Chun Guoji sighed and said, "Back then, I was even more stubborn than you. Because of this, I offended many people and suffer a lot. But I persevered and turned all those who mocked me into a joke. I'm old, and I can't make movies for many years. The future belongs to you young people. What I can do now is to accompany you and send you on your journey. You have to rely on yourself for the rest of the journey." Chun Guoji's appreciation for Lu Chun was not only because Lu Chun had contributed many excellent programs to his Spring Festival Gala, but also because he saw the excellent qualities of Lu Chun. Lu Chun was very young and had outstanding talent. No one in the domestic entertainment industry could match his popularity. But he did not lose himself and become arrogant because of this. Instead, he was modest and cautious. Basically, there were no scandals. What was commendable was that Lu Chun not only had innovation and pursuit in the film industry, but also perseverance and hard work. In Chun Guoji's opinion, if there could be a few more artists like Lu Chun in the domestic film and television industry, it would be much better. His questioning of Lu Chun just now was just a small test. Chun Fei said, "Director Chun, you're still very young." Chun Guoji couldn't help laughing. "I'm really old. 10 years ago, I could make the crew stay up all night with me. I wouldn't be tired even if I were to shoot for 3 days and 3 nights. Now, I have to admit that I'm old." "Xiao Lu, your persistence is right, but you have to pay attention to the mood of the crew." Lu Chun nodded and said, "I know. I'll find a way to boost their morale." Chun Guoji said with a smile, "The director is equivalent to the general of an army compared to the crew. A good general needs to know how to command the battle and how to control the hearts of the soldiers. Only in this way can he win. I believe you will be a good commander." Lu Chun listened modestly and seriously. Lu Chun's respect for the great director in front of him was not superficial. In fact, during this period of time, he had learned a lot of things from Chun Guoji in the film industry and gained a lot of valuable experience. And Chun Guoji was never stingy to teach him, and he took the initiative to give him a lot of advice. Lu Chun believed that after the baptism of sword out of Mount Hua, there wouldn't be many obstacles for him to direct the next 2 parts of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, in the future. It was not an exaggeration to say that Chun Guoji was his teacher. Chun Guoji spoke, Lu Chun listened, and the others watched silently. This scene was fixed with an indescribable harmony. The next day, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer continued to shoot in the Ningxian film and television city. But before the shooting started, Lu Chun first announced an important news to all the crew members. That was after the first part of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, soared out of Mount Hua, Chun Fei Media would take out 5% of the box office profit as a reward for the crew. Everyone would get a share according to their contribution. Money was not omnipotent, but in many cases, the effect of money was direct and powerful. No one knew how much box office The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer could get, but no one thought that this martial arts movie would lose money. Profits were inevitable. It was just a matter of how much or how little. 5% did not seem to be much, but as a reward for the crew, it was definitely very generous. 5% of a 100 million profit was 5 million, and even the most ordinary crew members could get at least a few thousand. If The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer made hundreds of millions of profit, that was totally possible. Encouraged by the generous rewards, The morale of the crew soared. And the most important thing was that the two core figures, Chun Guoji and Lu Chun, were very united. Under their leadership, the shooting work continued in an orderly manner. One difficult scene after another was shot, and the actors who participated in the performance grew rapidly. After going through all kinds of tests, the progress that was delayed in the early stage was gradually caught up. But when the internal problems of the smiling, the proud wanderer were gradually solved, the external pressure appeared again. Chapter 819. Mount Hua was a dangerous place. Mount Hua, one of the 5 sacred mountains, was located in the south of Huayin County, Western Qin Province. It was 2,200 meters above sea level, overlooking the Yellow River in the north and the Qinling Mountains in the south. It was said in notes to the Book of Water that it looked like a flower from afar, so it was named Mount Hua. It was also called Mount Shaohua because it faced Mount Shaohua in the west. There were many places of interest on Mount Hua, from the foothills to the top. Temples, historical sites, and natural wonders could be seen everywhere. The songs, records, historical records, and folklore of the literati of the past were widely spread. The first song of the smiling, proud wanderer soared from Mount Hua. Since the name of the movie had Mount Hua in it, it must be shot on Mount Hua. Otherwise, it would be a joke. The crew led by Chun Guoji and Lu Chun arrived at the scenic area of Mount Hua half a month ago. After half a month of shooting, they had only completed less than 1/3 of the shooting schedule. There was no other way. First of all, Mount Hua was extremely steep, so it was very difficult to shoot normally. In order to ensure the safety of the actors and crew, they couldn't rush the schedule. Second, Mount Hua was a famous scenic area, so there were many tourists on normal days. Therefore, even with the cooperation of the management area, they couldn't clear the site for too long, which would undoubtedly slow down the progress of the shooting. Today's shooting was on the Canglong Ridge. After ascending the north peak of Mount Hua, turning south, passing the Ear Cliff, and climbing the Heaven Stairway, a long ridge appeared in front of them. It was thick and lush, piercing straight into the sky like a soaring dragon. That was why it was called the Canglong Ridge. The steps on the Canglong Ridge were less than 1 meter wide, and there were deep ravines on both sides of the mountain path, which were as steep as knives and axes. Looking at the green pines and white clouds, and hearing the wind, it was breathtaking. A professional camera drone was flying on the Canglong Ridge. The lens of its pan-tilt camera was closely following Lu Chun and Mu Xiaochu, who were walking on a mountain path. From time to time, it swooped down and circled to give a wonderful close-up. Suddenly, a strong wind blew, which made Mu Xiaochu, who was wearing a pink dress, lose her balance. She couldn't help but scream and was about to fall to the ground. Fortunately, Lu Chun, who was following behind her, had sharp eyes and quick hands. He took a big step forward and grabbed her. Even so, Mu Xiaochu was so scared that his face turned pale and tears almost fell from his eyes. She had always been a little afraid of heights, so the live filming on Mount Hua was undoubtedly a huge test for her. However, Mu Xiaochu was a little stubborn and insisted on not using a stunt double to film the scenes at Canglong Ridge. Lu Chun asked with concern, "Little Chu, are you all right?" Mu Xiaochu nodded. Just now, she was almost scared out of her wits. But with Lu Chun supporting her and hearing Lu Chen's familiar voice, her heart inexplicably calmed down. She no longer had any fear. "I'm fine. Shall we continue?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "It's done. Director Chun just told me that there's no problem. Let's go back." He was wearing wireless earphones, so he could hear the director's instructions at any time. Big Lu Chun stretched out his hand to Mu Xiaochu and said with a smile, "Come on, little sister, I'll hold your hand." "Thank you, big brother." Mu Xiaochu's pretty face blushed, and she replied playfully. Then, she put her little hand in Lu Chen's hand and let him lead her back the way they came. Although it was very intimate to hold hands like this, Lu Chun didn't think much of it, because in his heart, Mu Xiaochu was like his own sister, someone who needed to be cared for and protected, but it didn't involve the relationship between a man and a woman. However, when Mu Xiaochu was held by him like this and felt the warmth in his palm, her heart seemed to fly with the wind. The originally steep mountain road suddenly became flat, and she wanted to keep walking and never reach the end. In fact, Mu Xiaochu knew very well that Lu Chen's heart couldn't accommodate another person. She also didn't want to replace Chun Fei, so she buried the girl's longing for love deep in her heart and let time wear it away. However, the feeling of being held like this was really good. Returning to the filming platform where the crew was located, Lu Chen naturally let go of Mu Xiaochu's hand and ran to Chun Guoji to watch the video replay. If the effect was not good, then they would reshoot it again. There's no problem. Chun Guoji was very satisfied. He pointed to the screen of the monitor and said, "Nowadays, drone aerial photography technology is very good. If it was 7 or 8 years ago, it wouldn't have been able to capture such an effect." While they were talking, the drone that had made a great contribution was controlled by the pilot to land safely. This Wujiang drone was currently the most advanced aerial camera in the industry. The camera it carried could capture images up to 8K resolution. Whether it was stability or shooting effect, it could meet the stringent requirements of filming a movie. Of course, it was not cheap. One drone cost a few million yuan, and it also needed to be equipped with 3 professionals to control the shooting. The cost was also quite high. In order to film the smiling, proud wanderer, Chun Fei Media specially ordered 2 drones in advance and paid to train their own pilot. The cost alone was more than 5 million yuan, but the investment was completely worth it. Not only was Chun Guoji very satisfied, but Lu Chen also couldn't find any problems after watching the video replay. Chun Guoji stood up and said, "Then let's call it a day." Songlong Ridge was a famous scenic spot on Mount Hua. It was a must-visit place for many tourists. Not to mention, during the day, there were also many people climbing the mountain at night. When looking at Songlong Ridge from afar, one could see countless stars lined up in a straight line, slanting to the sky and slowly moving upward. That was the tourists climbing the ridge with flashlights or headlights. The scene was very spectacular. Therefore, the filming time here was very limited. Of course, they had to call it a day after shooting. They couldn't affect the normal operation of the scenic spot and the tourist trip. Lu Chun returned the sword to the staff who was in charge of the props. He turned around and saw Chun Fei, and Mu Xiaochu together. The two of them lowered their heads and whispered something. Chun Fei's heroine was not in the scenes on Mount Hua, but she had never been to Mount Hua before, so this time she deliberately came to join in the fun and regarded herself as a tourist. Lu Chen walked over and asked with a smile, "What are you talking about?" Mu Xiaochu raised his head and said angrily, "Brother Lu Chen, someone is messing with us." "Who?" Lu Chen laughed and said, "So boring." Chun Fei rolled her eyes at him and said, "Sister Lu, she just sent me a message. Someone else's martial arts movie is going to be released first. It's very hyped up." "What?" Lu Chen knew that there were a few movies of the same genre that started shooting at the same time as The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Seeing that the summer season was coming, it was normal for others to release their movies after they finished shooting. But since Lu Shi was so concerned about it, it must not be simple. Chapter 820. The original novel of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was first published on Waves Books. It was published in the form of a web novel. It didn't make much impact at the beginning, with only a few readers clicking on it. However, the brilliance of this novel, which was the pioneer of the new wuxia novel, couldn't be covered. It was loved by a group of readers, spread in the online world, and finally printed in large quantities. So far, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had been reprinted 5 times, with a total print run of more than 10 million. It was also translated into many languages and published abroad. It had countless fans. After The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, created by the same author, took over the banner of the new wuxia novel. It was on the best-selling list of Xinhua Book Company as soon as it was published, showing its great strength. In addition, Chinfei Media announced that it had bought the adaptation copyright of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. As long as the people in the industry were not stupid, they could see that a popular IP was taking shape and had great market potential. The most important thing was that many people had a superstitious reverence for Liu Chun because none of the projects he was involved in had failed, and all of them made a lot of money. He also made a lot of money for his collaborators. Since Liu Chun had bet on the wuxia IP, who wouldn't want a share of it? Unfortunately, it was not practical to directly cooperate with Chinfei Media. It was not a matter of money, but that Chinfei Media was very picky about their partners. It was not easy to get this fat meat. Since cooperation was not possible, they would do it themselves. After Chinfei Media announced that they would shoot The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, many big companies in the industry started to invest in the same type of film and television works. Even the copyrights of many novels that followed the trend of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer were selling like hotcakes in the market. The competition was so fierce, and naturally there were some people who took the unconventional approach. Some time ago, the new 7 Heroes and 5 Gallon Shot by the Land Pictures was very popular. The lead actor, Gu Lei, not only was jumping up and down in the blog, but also challenged Liu Chun, trying his best to gain popularity. Although Gu Lei was despised and reprimanded by Liu Chun's fans because of this, the effect of his shamelessness was really good. Not only did his fame soar, but the new 7 Gallant Heroes and 5 Gallant Heroes were also known to many people. If it wasn't for Liu Chun's interaction with Chan Fei'er to suppress it, he would have probably made a lot of money. With successful precedents like Gu Lei and the new 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous Heroes, there were naturally many people who followed suit. Among them, there was no lack of clever people who chose to draw their swords at the critical moment. The sword was pointed at the upcoming summer holidays. The one who drew the sword was Wanhao Pictures, which had recently become famous in the film and television industry. Wanhao Pictures was considered a new recruit in the film and television industry. It had only been established for a few years, but it had a very powerful background. It was a wholly owned subsidiary of the Wanhao Group. The core of the Wanhao Group, Wanhao Real Estate, was one of the top 10 real estate developers in the country. It could be said to be rich and powerful. It had just entered the film and television industry, but it had already shown its ambition. It spent a lot of money to sign many heavyweight celebrities to join it, causing the industry to be in a state of panic. At the beginning of this year, Wanhao Pictures spent a huge sum of money to buy the film and television rights of the popular new wuxia novel, Young Pugilistic World. It also announced that it would start shooting this movie this year, with a total investment of $150 million. At that time, this caused a huge sensation in the industry. Many people were amazed by Wanhao Pictures' generosity. Many people were happy to watch a good show. They wanted to know what kind of storm this big crocodile would stir up when it entered the Red Sea. However, what was unexpected was that after Wanhao Pictures announced the shooting of Young Pugilistic World, there was no other major news. It became quiet all of a sudden, which made people feel a little confused. Later on, there was some sporadic news that showed that Wanhao Pictures was not joking. They were really going to shoot the movie. However, even their opening ceremony was very low-key, so there were not many media reports. It was the information age now, the era of information explosion. Wanhao Pictures played low-key, so naturally, no one had anything to do to create hype. Even the influence of Young Pugilistic World, which was considered a popular IP, was weakened by a lot. There were even some people in the industry who laughed at Wanhao Pictures behind their backs. They thought that Wanhao Pictures lacked experience and became a spendthrift. Whether Young Pugilistic World could be filmed was a problem, and a lot of money might go down the drain in the end. Similar cases were not rare. Even though the film market was extremely popular now, and many film and television companies were making a lot of money, causing countless investors to bow down to them, that was because they did not see the piles of corpses inside. However, the result was a heavy slap to these people's faces. On the 5th of June, Wanhao Pictures suddenly released the first trailer of Young Pugilistic World on their official Weibo. At the same time, the official Weibo of the movie Young Pugilistic World was also officially launched on Wave's blog. Many famous actors who participated in the filming of the movie reposted the official Weibo at the same time, opening the curtain of publicity at lightning speed. This shocked a lot of people in the industry. Wanhao Pictures had really done a good job in keeping the secret. There wasn't even a bit of news leaked out beforehand. The sudden exposure of such a big piece of news simply caught people off guard. All of a sudden, the movie Young Pugilistic World became a hot topic on blogs and the internet. The official Weibo trailer was reposted in large numbers. Just this trailer alone was undoubtedly a lot of highlights. Whether it was the character designs, the fighting scenes, the special effects, or the background music, they were all quite outstanding. The 2 minutes and 20 seconds video that was meticulously edited had reached the standard that a blockbuster should have. A few famous actors appeared in the trailer, and it instantly attracted a lot of attention from fans. And Wanhao Pictures' sudden move undoubtedly put a lot of pressure on their peers, especially those who were filming and producing the same type of movie. The new school of martial arts movies have been hyped up for a long time. Wanhao Pictures was the first to release the trailer, and from the trailer, it was already very completed. On the 6th of June, Wanhao Pictures' official Weibo once again announced that Young Pugilistic World would officially be released on all the major cinemas in the country on the 15th of July. There would also be a large-scale publicity campaign before the screening, and the surrounding products would also be released on the same day as the screening. Then, a marketing account with over 1 million fans on the blog revealed that the main actor of Young Pugilistic World, Hua Fail, originally had the intention to act in The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, but was rejected by Chinfei Media. In the end, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer skipped the summer slot, and Young Pugilistic World was one step ahead. Once this was exposed, it immediately caused a heated discussion on the internet. Because of this, Hua Fail's fans had a fierce conflict with Liu Chen's fans. Chapter 821. Male idols were considered a unique scene in the domestic entertainment industry. In the beginning, this nickname was given to Japanese and Korean celebrities by fans. It referred to those young, handsome, and muscular male idols. It was a typical internet term. In recent years, as young male idols began to gain popularity, there were many more celebrities of the same type in the domestic entertainment industry. Their characteristics were often very similar. First of all, they were young enough. Those who were over 30 were considered old cured meat. They had fair skin and a fashionable style. Their promotions were extremely strong. Furthermore, they usually did not have any singing skills or acting skills, but they could still become a mess of popularity. When Liu Chan first made his debut, he was once classified as a little fresh meat by some media, but he soon relied on his extraordinary talent and healthy and robust image to become a perfect big star with both idol and strength. As for Hua Fail, he actually debuted later than Liu Chan, but he also became popular very quickly. Hua Fail first signed with a well-known management company, Taisher. With the support of Taisher, he quickly debuted and starred in a TV series with good ratings. He quickly became popular with his handsome image. As soon as he became popular, Hua Fail fell out with Taisher. He was frozen for half a year and fought a sensational lawsuit. Then, he joined another management company, CKG. After signing with CKG, Hua Fail's career went smoothly. He starred in many TV series and even released his own album. He became one of the best male idols and had a large number of fans. Hua Fail's salary was very high. CKG asked for more than $1 million per episode for a TV series and at least $50 million for a movie. There was also a share of the box office. Regardless of whether such a high salary was fake or not, CKG had the confidence to offer such a price. Hua Fail had more than 20 million fans on Waves and had endorsed many international brands. Liu Chen didn't know Hua Fail. He hadn't even seen him before. They didn't have much contact before. However, when Chinfei Media announced that they would be filming The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, CKG's manager came looking for cooperation and recommended Hua Fail. At that time, Chinfei Media was a little interested. After all, Huafei's popularity and market value were obvious. His participation would undoubtedly expand the target audience of the movie and increase the box office. However, CKG's offer shocked Lu Shi. It was an unacceptable price, so she could only reject it. As the saying goes, even if the deal doesn't work out, the cooperation doesn't work out either. Chenfei Media and CKG wouldn't fall out with each other because of this. After that, there was no more news. To everyone's surprise, Huafei had joined Wanhao Pictures to star in Young Jianghu, and Young Jianghu had launched a promotional campaign against martial arts movies before the smiling, proud Wang Jianghu. Regardless of whether the marketing account on the blog was instructed by anyone or not, the explosive news inevitably caused the two movies and even the two leading actors to oppose each other. Coupled with a lot of media hype, it quickly became a hot topic on the blog. The first to stir up trouble were Huafei's fans. Huafei's fans called themselves music fans. Most of them were teenage girls, and most of them were born in the 2000s. Most of them were born in the 90s, and most of them were born in the 90s. Their values in life weren't mature, and they often chased after their idols. As soon as the marketing account revealed the news, some music fans immediately went to Chenfei Media's blog to mock them. They said that Chenfei Media was blind and rejected Huafei. Now they were slapped in the face. Of course, Chenfei Media's official blog didn't care about these fans, so they didn't bother to respond. Seeing that Chenfei Media's official blog didn't have any reaction, they were probably very dissatisfied. They immediately summoned a group of allies to support them and flooded the comment section. As a result, Chenfei Media's official blog hasn't spoken yet. Lu Chen's fans became angry after learning about the situation. The Lu family army's support group roared over and surrounded these music fans inhumanely. In the past 2 years, Lu Jiejun's fan club, which was led by Lu Chen, was more or less lonely. Other than supporting Lu Chen on a daily basis, they rarely fought with anyone. Now that he had finally encountered something fun, it was as if he could summon hundreds of people and crush the music fans in minutes. Comparing the number of fans and fighting power, the two were really not on the same level. But here came the problem. Most of these music fans were spoiled little girls. They were usually spoiled and loved by their families. They were also praised on the internet. When had they ever been bullied like this? After suffering a loss, they naturally had to find help. They cried and complained everywhere in their QQ group, expanding the online battlefield from the blog to Lu Chen's official Tieba. This time, it was like poking a hornet's nest. Lu Chen had hundreds of millions of fans on Waves and tens of millions of fans on Tieba. Now that someone came looking for trouble, he immediately pulled back. Not only did they have to pull back, but they also had to counterattack. They didn't need to mobilize much. A few large groups of people worked together to destroy Huafei's Tieba. The fighting power of Lu Chen's fans was so strong that Huafei's official Tieba had to limit the level of the posters and delete a large number of posts. Although the storm was suppressed, it was equivalent to admitting defeat. Huafei's fans didn't want to give up, so they went around on the internet, saying that Lu Chen's fans were bullying them by relying on their numbers and that they were trying to pester Lu Chen. But so far, neither Chenfei Media nor CKG directly participated in it. After all, it was common for fans to fight with each other. Unless it got out of hand, it would be too low for the officials to roll up their sleeves and get involved. As for Huafei himself, he didn't say anything. He just kept posting the crew and highlights of Young Pugilistic World on his blog to cooperate with Wanhao Pictures promotion. Compared to Goulet, who had been fighting with Lu Chen before, his attitude was undoubtedly much colder and more arrogant. But the media, who were afraid of chaos, stirred up the fight between the fans of both sides and also put Huafei and Lu Chen, Young Pugilistic World and the smiling, proud martial artist on the opposite side. If Young Pugilistic World was a great success and won a considerable box office, did it mean that the smiling, proud martial artist had won the crown? Then did Huafei, who had been rejected by Chenfei Media, complete a beautiful counterattack? The emergence of this kind of public opinion made Lucy, who has always been very concerned about online publicity, pay attention to it, so she made this phone call to Lu Chen. If you didn't occupy the position of the public opinion, you would be waiting to be occupied by your opponent. Lucy knew this very well. Chapter 822. Compared to Lu Shi's anxiety, Lu Chun was much calmer. Chunfei Media had developed to this day, and the success or failure of a movie was not enough to shake its foundation. He had the status and reputation he had now, and not many opponents could shake him. The first movie of his smiling, Proud Wanderer, was of course very important. Its box office would directly affect the profits of the next two movies. It was also the first battle of Lu Chen's great wuxia IP plan, and he could only succeed. But Lu Chen didn't think that young pugilistic world would be a big threat to the smiling, Proud Wanderer. Even if the former had a big box office, it would only steal the limelight of the wuxia movies. Most importantly, no matter how good the trailer was, no matter how popular the online promotion was, the box office was ultimately contributed by the audience, and it was the audience's reputation that determined the box office. On this point, Lu Chen had absolute confidence in the smiling, Proud Wanderer. In order to prepare for this new wuxia movie, he painstakingly built the Lu family troupe, spent 2 years preparing, invested a huge amount of money to build a special effects team, and even made a talent show to find talents. Young Pugilistic World, or Wanhao Pictures, which invested in this movie, were rich and powerful. But how could they be more prepared than Chunfei Media? What's more, the trend of new wuxia was brought by Lu Chen. As for the shooting of wuxia movies, he not only had rich memories in the dream world to use, but also had his own unique understanding and ideas. Lu Chen didn't doubt the ability of Wanhao Pictures, and he also believed that this opponent could make a decent blockbuster. But wuxia movies, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Sister, the smiling, Proud Wanderer will be finished in 2 months. Including the post-production, we can't release it until the National Day at the earliest. We don't have a direct conflict with them, so let's not get involved. Let Brother Fei appease the fans. We should have a high enough position. There's no need to make a fuss. If they do well in the box office, it's actually good for us. We don't need to fight for this reputation." Regardless of whether it was the entertainment industry or the film industry, they were all circles of fame and fortune, right and wrong. Open and secret fights were everywhere. Now, that Wanhao Pictures had made such a big fuss, it was nothing more than fighting for fame and fortune, and trampling on Chunfei Media along the way. Lu Chen had no intention of stirring up a dispute at this time. The filming of the smiling, Proud Wanderer was at a critical stage. It was not worth it to be distracted by this kind of thing. Perhaps the other party was eager for him to take the field himself. Under Lu Chen's persuasion, Lu Shi quickly calmed down. She realized that Lu Chen's words were very reasonable. "All right then, I'll discuss it with Li Feiyu and try to deal with it as coldly as possible." Li Feiyu was the only friend Lu Chen met during his time in Beijing. It could be said that the change in Lu Chen's fate had a certain relationship with him. Since Lu Chen became famous and started his career, he had not forgotten this friend. In the beginning, Li Feiyu served as Lu Chen's assistant and helped with the live broadcast. Later, he was responsible for the public relations and marketing of the studio. Now he was the director of the online publicity department of Chunfei Media. He was responsible for managing matters related to fans, such as Lu Jiejun Support Fan Group, Official Tieba, Forum, QQ Group, and so on. Lu Chen said, "Well, find another media to arrange an interview for me. We'll also make some noise." Lu Shi agreed. He ended the call with Lu Shi. Chunfei and Mu Xiaochu walked over hand in hand. Chunfei asked what happened. "Why did you call for so long?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "Sister called. It's nothing big. Let's go back and talk. It's too windy here." It really wasn't a big deal. Lu Chen set the tone to deal with the situation. On the other side, under the arrangement of Lu Shi, Chunfei Media quickly appeased most of the fans through the support group and did not continue to make the matter bigger. In the words of Li Feiyu in the official group, it was that Lu Jiejun should have a high profile and not fight with others. Lu Chen's fans were also mainly young people, but compared to those teenage girls, they were undoubtedly more rational and mature, so everyone was quite cooperative. Of course, a small number of fans did not listen, but after all, they could not cause much trouble. As for Wanhao Pictures and Hua Fail, they did not make a big deal out of it. After all, there were too many fans of Lu Chen. If they really offended all of them, then they would boycott the release of Young Martial World. It would not be worth it. However, some of Hua Fail's fans saw that Lu Jiajun had given up, so they felt proud and thought that they had won. The only ones who were disappointed were the media, who wanted to see the world in chaos, and a small number of people in the industry who liked to watch the fun. On June 10th, Lu Chen accepted an interview with Film Express on the temporary set of Huashan. Film Express was one of the few professional film newspapers in China. It had been published for nearly 30 years and had a great influence among film fans. It had launched its own website a few years ago, and the official V of Wave blog had more than 5 million fans. Since The Smiling, the proud martial world started shooting, the crew refused to be interviewed by the media. The shooting had always been in a state of secrecy, and there had been no important news for a few months. This time, Film Express was contacted by Chunfei Media and immediately sent their best people to Huashan, trying to dig out the relevant first-hand information about the smiling, the proud martial world. At present, the martial arts movies were very popular. At least 3 movies of the same genre were released during the summer. People in and out of the industry were very concerned about it, especially the smiling, the proud martial world. On June 12th, Film Express published the full interview with Lu Chen on its latest issue and website, which immediately attracted the attention of many people in the industry and other media. However, to their disappointment, Film Express did not have any eye-catching news. Lu Chen and the crew of the smiling, the proud martial world were very low-key. They only said that the shooting was very smooth and that they could basically guarantee that the movie would be released during the National Day. As for Young Man in Pugilistic World and other competitors, Lu Chen did not comment on them because he did not know them well, and he did not care that the honor of the first new martial arts movie was taken away. Compared with the bold words released by Lu Chen at the opening ceremony, people in the industry soon said that the shooting of the smiling, the proud martial world might have encountered a lot of problems. Under the strong competition of Young Man in Pugilistic World, he was not very confident, and he might fail in this movie. Regarding this saying, neither Lu Chen nor Chunfei Media paid attention to it. No matter what the outside world said, they always kept silent. Chapter 823. Chunfei Media had only been established for less than 2 years. Even with the addition of its predecessor, Lu Chen Studio, it had not been more than 4 years in the entertainment industry. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a new recruit in the industry. However, it was precisely this new recruit who, under the leadership of Lu Chen, had created a series of dazzling achievements in the entertainment industry and had attacked in many directions, showing the powerful momentum of a future big media. Chunfei Media was a company owned by Lu Chen and Chunfei Er. It was a typical husband and wife business. Because it was not a listed company, there was no obligation to disclose its performance to the public. How much money it had made, apart from the relevant people inside the company, perhaps only the national tax authorities would know. There were also many speculations about the profitability of Chunfei Media. One of the more authoritative inferences was that in just last year, Chunfei Media's profit was at least between 400 million and 500 million. This level of profitability had crushed more than half of the listed companies. Many large companies with tens of thousands of employees did not earn as much as Chunfei Media. There were also professional organizations that had evaluated the brand appeal of Lu Chen and believed that Lu Chen's commercial value was about 5 billion, ranking first in the Chinese entertainment industry. Although Chunfei Media and Lu Chen himself did not respond to these speculations and assessments, in the eyes of many people in the industry, there was no doubt that Lu Chen's ability to make money was strong. He had made so much money and was worth so much money. It was impossible for no one to be jealous of him. However, Lu Chen had never had any black marks on him. Not long after his debut, he fell in love with Chun Fei-er. The relationship between the two was very stable, and they became the model couple in the entertainment industry that everyone envied. Lu Chen's works, whether it was music or film, were all original. He did not plagiarize or follow the trend. He always led the trend. His talent was outstanding and unparalleled. Even if the haters wanted to criticize him, they could not find anything. Most importantly, although he made a lot of money, he never flaunted it. He also invested a huge amount of money to set up Chun Fei Charity Foundation and helped many sick children. How could they criticize him? In addition, within the circle, Lu Chen's personality was also well known for being modest and magnanimous. He never acted like a big shot, never put on airs, and never spoke ill of people on his blog, even if the other party was deliberately creating trouble to gain popularity. This kind of Lu Chen really made his opponents feel despair. This time, the strong competition between Wanhao Pictures and Chun Fei Media in the movie industry finally allowed people to catch something. Hence, under the situation where Chun Fei Media continued to remain silent and did not launch a counterattack against Young Pugilistic World, many people became excited and active. Some media outlets were paid, some media outlets were trying to get attention, and some media outlets just didn't like it. Plus, some people were secretly adding fuel to the fire. There was a wave of people belittling the smiling, proud wanderer in the circle. The smiling, proud wanderer has been delayed. It will not be released in the summer. Insider information: the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer is having a conflict with the director. According to the current information, the smiling, the proud swordsman might miss the National Day slot. The smiling, proud wanderer is facing difficulties in production due to the high difficulty of production. Several big web portals had a cooperative relationship with Chun Fei Media. There was no negative news about Chun Fei Media and the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer, but many other small and medium media, especially self-media, were much more unscrupulous. As the promotion of Young Pugilistic World became more and more aggressive, there was more and more negative news about the smiling, proud wanderer, which was forwarded to blogs, forums, and QQ groups. To those who didn't know the truth, it was easy to have the illusion that the upcoming Young Pugilistic World was the real masterpiece of the new martial arts movie. Everyone knew that Wanhao Pictures was definitely behind the scenes. They were never stingy with their funds on promotion. For the box office of this blockbuster movie, it was normal for them to carry out a series of operations. But others could not get anything to use against Wanhao Pictures, because Wanhao Pictures had never purposely targeted anyone with their publicity for Young World's adventures in the pugilistic world. They boasted about themselves and did not belittle their opponents. They used open and above-board tactics. With two lines working together, one in the open and the other in the dark, it was easy to imagine the momentum created. Young Pugilistic World became extremely popular and became the new representative of domestic movies. No matter how much publicity Wanhao Pictures gave, Chun Fei Media just stood by and watched. No matter how hard it was, they didn't do anything. They basically didn't do any publicity for the smiling, the proud wanderer. They only released a few stills occasionally. All of a sudden, Young Pugilistic World had the feeling of being the only one to lose in the promotion of the summer movie. Even the two American blockbusters that were also going to be released during the summer were at a disadvantage. However, Chun Fei Media had their own reasons for not fighting back, because the smiling, proud wanderer was scheduled to be released during the National Day slot. There was no schedule conflict with Young Pugilistic World, and there was no direct competition, so they could completely put on a high profile. But Young Pugilistic World was not the only domestic martial arts movie that was released during the summer. Just as Young Pugilistic World became popular on the internet, Goulet, who had almost disappeared a while ago, suddenly jumped out and ridiculed Hua Fail on his personal blog. This time, Goulet must have changed a publicity planner. His blog post was quite interesting. Although everyone knew that he was ridiculing Huafei's name wasn't in the blog post, but it was full of ridicule. Goulet did have a reason to mock Huafei because he was a hardcore action star. It was very suitable for him to act in a martial arts film. However, if a sissy were to act as a heroic hero, wouldn't it be hilarious? As soon as Goulet started to ridicule Huafei, it immediately attracted a lot of gunfire. The fans of Huafei who were provoked by his blog post immediately exploded and swarmed over to fight back. This was exactly what Goulet wanted. He continuously posted 3 tough blog posts to strengthen his firepower. At the same time, he didn't forget to promote the new 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, which was released 1 week later than Young Pugilistic World. Some people said that in the entertainment industry, one had to be thick-skinned and black-hearted enough. Goulet was undoubtedly one of the best. Everyone knew that he was trying to get attention, but it was really admirable for him to be so fearless and try to get attention. In the end, Huafei couldn't stay calm anymore. He personally went on stage and ridiculed Goulet. It wasn't over yet. While the two sides were fighting fiercely, another martial arts movie, Pugilistic World Wanderer, which was also released during the summer, joined in. Someone commented, "Jianghu is in chaos." Chapter 824. The world was bustling for profits, and the world was bustling for profits. To put it bluntly, the chaos in the domestic film market was actually a battle for profits. It was a fierce competition for a share of a big cake with tens of billions of yuan in the box office. Everyone wanted to grab the biggest and sweetest piece. In this competition, the smiling, the proud wanderer was reduced to an inconspicuous supporting role. Everyone's attention was attracted by young Jianghu, the 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and Jianghu Wanderer. Wanhao Pictures, Land Pictures, and Crown Pictures, which produced Jianghu Wanderer, were all well-known big companies in the industry, and their strength could be said to be equal. The leading actors of the 3 movies, Huafei, Goulet, and Lin Luo, were all outstanding young actors. Who would win undoubtedly became a hot topic. After Young Pugilistic World, the new 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and Pugilistic World Wanderer also released trailers. The special effects were not much inferior to the former. Coupled with the hype, people could not help but smell the smoke of the upcoming summer. Young Jianghu was set to be released on July 5th, the 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous on July 12th, and Jianghu Wanderer on July 15th. A fierce battle had already begun. This situation inevitably made many people worry about Qinfei Media. Because the smiling, the proud wanderer was delayed to the National Day, it completely lost the advantage of 2 months later, and the box office prospects were worrying. The reason was very simple. For the popular new martial arts movies, they must have a great sense of novelty and curiosity, and would certainly be willing to pay to go to the cinema to watch the fun. But after watching a few movies, it was easy to be tired of the same kind of movies. Of course, with the popularity of Lu Chun, Chun Fei, Lu Gangsheng, and Tan Hong, the box office of the smiling, the proud wanderer would certainly not be low, and it would be difficult for Qinfei Media to lose money. But to realize Lu Chen's words at the opening ceremony, it was hard to say. Many people in the industry thought that it was the biggest mistake of the smiling, the proud wanderer, to miss the summer. The original advantage was given to the opponent, and the loss caused by the delay was at least hundreds of millions of yuan. This movie was very likely to let Lu Chun get rid of the aura of invincibility. Qinfei Media's recent low profile seemed to prove this. There have been a lot of negative comments in the media recently. In the general manager's office at the headquarters of Qinfei Media in the capital, Lu Shi threw an invitation in front of Lu Chun and said, "It's time for us to take action. We can't just be passively beaten." A few days ago, the first song of the smiling, the proud wanderer, sort of Mount Hua, had finished shooting in Ningxia Film and Television City and entered the post-production stage. Lu Chun and several main members of the crew returned to the capital first. However, the production team would not be disbanded. Instead, they would further expand the size of the crew. This was because the filming for the next 2 films would continue and was expected to be completed by the end of the year. During this period of time, Chunfei Media really kept a low profile in terms of publicity. Even the news of the completion of Sword of Mount Hua was only announced on their official Weibo. They didn't even invite media reporters to interview them. The media never stopped criticizing the smiling, proud wanderer. The reasons were complicated. Some of them were caused by their opponents. Some of them were just trying to gain popularity. Of course, it was also because Chunfei Media didn't spend any money. Most of the media's moral integrity was actually to sell to whoever offered the highest price. It would be strange if Chunfei Media didn't spend money, but their opponents spent money. Although Chunfei Media also paid a lot of attention to media publicity and public relations, and the budget was very high, it was inevitable that there would be some negative effects due to the recent shrinking of their publicity strategy. In this regard, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry. The summer period has just begun. It won't be too late for us to take action after their films are released. It's more powerful to take back our fists and punch them out." The concept of the summer period originated from the United States. It referred to the film schedule from June 1st to August 31st every year. The main audience was the student audience aged 4 to 24. Major film companies usually paid special attention to the film schedule in June and July to compete for this huge market share. Originally, in China, the summer period had always been regarded as the off-season of the box office and was not taken seriously. However, with the increasing prosperity of the domestic film market, the value of the summer period was highlighted and became a place that must be fought for. However, the domestic summer period started at the end of June. July was the prime time, and August was the end of the period. Young Man in Pugilistic World, The New 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and The Wanderer of Pugilistic World were all released in the prime time in July. This situation was relatively rare in the past. The competition was bound to be very fierce. Seeing Lu Chen's calmness, Lu Shi couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. The emperor is not anxious, but the eunuch is anxious, because Lu Chen had set the tone for the smiling, proud wanderer early on. Chunfei Media also had a hard time enduring the waves of publicity from their opponents. There were some people who didn't understand and complained internally, feeling that they were being looked down upon by others. Lu Chen laughed and didn't explain much. He picked up the invitation on the table curiously. This invitation was from Wanhao Pictures. The premiere of Young Man in Pugilistic World would be held in Wanhao World Studios 5 days later, which was July 2nd. They invited Lu Chen to attend. Lu Chen already knew about the premiere of Young Man in Pugilistic World because Wanhao Pictures had been announcing it for a long time and made it very grand. This premiere would also be the opening ceremony of Wanhao World Studios. To a certain extent, it showed Wanhao Pictures' ambition to vigorously expand the film industry and move towards the road of pan-entertainment. Therefore, for this premiere, Wanhao Pictures also sent out invitations and invited famous people from all walks of life. "Faye, and I will also get one." Lu Shi asked. "I'm definitely going. Are you two going?" Although there was a direct competition between Wanhao Pictures and Chunfei Media in the business world, as long as they didn't fall out with each other, they still had to give some face. Otherwise, they wouldn't give a good impression. As the general manager of Chunfei Media, Lu Shi received the invitation and attended in person was a courtesy and also a kind of business respect. However, it didn't matter whether Lu Chen and Chunfei went or not. According to Lu Shi, it was better for them not to go. Anyway, it was easy to find a reason, and they weren't afraid of what others would say. If they really went, it would be giving the other party a chance to hype up, and it would be considered as funding the enemy. "Go, why not?" Lu Chen raised his eyebrows, patted the invitation in his hand, and said with a faint smile, "It's good to go and watch the show." Chapter 825, July 2nd, Wanhao New World. Wanhao Xinyiandi was a new commercial city that Wanhao Group had just completed in Beijing's 4th Ring Road. It was also the third large-scale shopping mall of this powerful real estate developer in Beijing. In recent years, the Hopska urban complex, which integrated commerce, residence, entertainment, and consumption, could be said to be blossoming everywhere in the country. Many real estate companies have been fighting for territory in major cities to build top-notch shopping centers. Marriott World Cinema was one of the most important parts of Marriott New World. This new cinema had 18 screening halls, among which the IMAX giant screen hall could accommodate 1,200 audiences at the same time. Its scale was one of the largest in the country, and its various facilities were also the most advanced. The premiere of Young Pugilistic World was held at Wanhao World Cinema. Night had just fallen, but the plaza in front of Marriott New World was already bustling with noise and excitement. Dozens of balloons with long banners hung in the air, and under the rainbow arches, there was a red carpet that was tens of meters long leading to the entrance of Silver City. The huge electronic display screen and the celebrity signature wall had already been set up. Many staff members were busy completing the final preparations. The lights set up at the scene were lit up, and a few beams of light shot into the sky. Many reporters had arrived at the scene in advance and even set up cameras. Such a scene attracted many ordinary citizens who came to watch the fun, but they were all blocked by security personnel in the safe area. It was just past 6 o'clock, and the trailer for Young World was displayed on the giant LED screen. Passionate music filled the square, and people from all walks of life appeared one after another. In order for Young Pugilistic World, a martial arts blockbuster with an investment of 150 million yuan, to become a hit in the summer, Wanhao Pictures spared no effort in publicity. Dozens of celebrities and famous people in the industry were invited to attend the premiere. This did not include the actors and directors of the film crew. When Lu Chun, Chun Fei, and Lu Shi passed the security check in a Mercedes-Benz and arrived at the scene, there were at least tens of thousands of people gathered there. Both sides of the long red carpet were lined with reporters, and the flashes of cameras were flashing one after another. "It's so lively." Chun Fei saw the scene outside through the car window. She was quite surprised. The premiere is almost like a movie awards ceremony. It was rare to see a premiere of such a scale in the country. It was all thanks to Wanhao Pictures' wealth. Lu Shi smiled and said, "I heard that they're going to spend 100 million yuan on publicity, and the target box office earnings is at least 1 billion yuan. The investment budget for Young Pugilistic World was 150 million, and spending 100 million on publicity was not an exaggeration. Just the premiere alone would cost at least 10 to 20 million, and the total cost would be 250 to 300 million. According to the share of the domestic box office, if the production cost was 300 million, then a box office of 1 billion would guarantee a minimum profit. However, Wanhao Pictures was definitely more ambitious. The black Mercedes-Benz S500 stopped steadily at the beginning of the red carpet. The reporters' cameras immediately turned around, ready to take first-hand photos. Many of the stars who had appeared in front of them had already attracted a lot of attention. Every Mercedes-Benz that came was like a small treasure chest. After opening it, there might be unexpected surprises. Although these reporters had received red packets, their professionalism was still very high. The more they stirred up, the more attention they would get from their own media. Which star or director are those who just came over? Apart from the reporters, there were also countless onlookers at the scene. The live broadcast was played on the LED screen in real time, attracting most people's curious gazes. Under everyone's gaze, the uniformed usher opened the car door. A tall and handsome young man got out of the car with a faint smile on his face. Lu Chun. The reporters recognized him in an instant. They subconsciously pressed the shutter, and the flashes intertwined. Taking photos was their instinct. In fact, these reporters were very surprised. They had never thought that Lu Chun would actually attend the premiere of Young Pugilistic World. It was normal for Wanhao Pictures to send an invitation to Lu Chun, but it was surprising that Lu Chun was invited. One should know that the promotion of Young Pugilistic World was very vigorous. Although it did not directly target the smiling, the proud martial artist, everyone in the industry could see the intention of Wanhao Pictures. Although Young Pugilistic World and The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist were not released at the same time, and there was no direct competition between them. However, Wanhao Pictures obviously wanted to snatch the flag of the new school of martial arts movies and plant it firmly in front of their own door. To get such glory, they had to step on The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist. As the one being challenged, it was impossible for Lu Chen not to know that he came to the premiere of Young Pugilistic World. Did he have an ulterior motive, or was he really being generous? The reporters' brains were working fast, and the SLR cameras in their hands were still clicking nonstop. Lu Chen got out of the car, but he did not immediately step on the red carpet. He turned around and brought out his companion in a gentlemanly manner. Chun Fei-er. The reporters were a little crazy, and the speed of pressing the shutter doubled. The most popular couple in the entertainment industry, the male and female leads of The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist, came together. If they were put on the website, they could almost be the entertainment headlines. Lu Chun, Chun Fei-er. There were many fans of the two in the crowd. Seeing that their idols actually came, they immediately shouted loudly and even tried to push forward, which made the security guards who were waiting for them feel like they were facing a formidable enemy. The security guard were also having a hard time. There were many celebrities who had walked the red carpet before them, but they did not see them being very excited. But now they finally saw what was called the power of the crowd. Lu Chen and Chun Fei-er held hands and waved to the excited fans. Their images appeared on the big screen and were also captured by countless cameras and mobile phones. The same scene was already familiar to people, and it was believed that it would appear frequently in the future. The organizers of the premiere would definitely feel embarrassed, because all the glory was taken away by the two who had just appeared. It gave people the feeling that it was not the premiere of Young Pugilistic World, but the premiere of The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist. If they had known this, they would not have sent invitations to Lu Chun and Chun Fei-er. It was like shooting themselves in the foot. The two attracted so much attention that Lu Shi, who got out of the car after them, did not pay much attention to them. But not only did Lu Shi not care about it at all, but she was secretly laughing. They were not here to support. It was almost like they were here to ruin the show. It was so embarrassing. Her sister was happily thinking. The show is about to begin. Chapter 826. Amidst the cheers and the cameras of over 100 reporters, Lu Chun, Chun Fei-er, and Lu Shi walked down the long red carpet and arrived in front of the signature wall. "Welcome, welcome." A middle-aged man in a navy blue suit walked up and extended his hand to Lu Chun with a warm smile. "Mr. Lu Chun, Ms. Chun Fei-er, General Manager Lu, it's our honor to have the three of you here. This is General Manager Lu Shangda of Wanhao Pictures." Lu Shi, who was beside Lu Chun, was afraid that he didn't know the identity of the other party, so she reminded him in a low voice. Lu Chun's expression changed. He immediately extended his hand and shook his hand. He smiled and said, "Nice to meet you, General Manager Lu. We should be the ones thanking you for your kind invitation and giving us the opportunity to visit and learn." Lu Chun had long heard of this General Manager Lu of Wanhao Pictures. It was said that he was strong-willed and resourceful. Under his control, Wanhao Pictures, which had just been established for a few years, had developed rapidly. Coupled with the support of Wanhao Group, the scale and strength of the company could be compared to a few established companies in the industry, becoming a new tycoon. It was his first time seeing him in person. This General Manager Lu of Wanhao Pictures had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was handsome, had a loud voice, and had a heroic temperament. If he was in a movie, he would definitely be the main character. Lu Xingda had acted in movies before, but he didn't make it big. Later on, he became a manager and opened his own company. Then he walked step by step to where he was today. He could be considered a legendary figure in the industry. "Haha, let's learn together." Lu Xingda laughed. He shook Lu Chen's hand and said, "We want to learn from you." The flashes and the surroundings were incessant. Many cameras pointed at Lu Chun and Lu Xingda at the same time, capturing the scene of the two shaking hands and laughing. Those who didn't know would definitely think that the two of them had a good friendship. In fact, not only were they meeting for the first time, they were also competitors. Lu Xingda shook hands with Chun Fei and Lu Shi respectively, politely and enthusiastically expressing his welcome. Then, he personally led the three of them to sign on the signature wall. As soon as Lu Chun signed his name and stepped off the stage, a large group of reporters immediately surrounded him, scrambling to hold up microphones to him. The colorful logos of different media outlets almost blocked his face. Lu Chun, Mr. Lu Chun, Teacher Lu, they shouted and raised different questions at the same time and desperately came forward to fight for a good seat. If it weren't for the timely obstruction of the security personnel on the scene, it was estimated that Lu Chun would have been drowned. This scene made the corner of Lu Xingda's eyes twitch, and he almost couldn't maintain the smile on his face. Previously, when the cast of Young Pugilistic World made their appearance, they didn't see these reporters who had given them big red packets to be so excited. It was as if Lu Chun was the real protagonist of this premiere. Mr. Lu Chun, may I ask why you are here for the premiere of Young Pugilistic World? This question was very straightforward, and it could be said that it was not subtle at all, but it undoubtedly spoke out the question in the hearts of many reporters present. They were really surprised. Lu Chun said in surprise, I am here for the premiere of Young Pugilistic World, of course because of Wanhao Pictures and Boss Lu's kind invitation. Is there a problem? The reporter who asked the question was stunned and didn't know how to answer. But soon, someone else added, Young Pugilistic World is a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World. Is there a special reason why you are here to support Young Pugilistic World? Reporters, especially entertainment reporters, were very bold. In order to get hot news, they dared to ask any question. They didn't care if the interviewee felt embarrassed, and even deliberately set traps. Therefore, experienced celebrities knew how to answer or avoid these questions. Lu Chun had been in the entertainment industry for 3 or 4 years, and he had been sharpened by countless reporters. He said with a smile, how could Young Pugilistic World be a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World? The smiling, proud Pugilistic World is scheduled for the National Day, and it is still 3 months away. His answer made many reporters laugh. It sounded like Young Pugilistic World was not a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World, but the latter explanation was reasonable and impeccable. He also slapped the reporter who asked the question in the face. How could it be a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World? The question was too stupid. The reporters couldn't help but look at each other. Someone else asked, then is the smiling, proud Pugilistic World sure to be screened on the National Day? Lu Chun nodded. Of course it's not a problem. He glanced at Lu Xingda, whose face was a bit dark, and said with a smile, everyone, can you please stop asking about the smiling, proud Pugilistic World? Today we are here to watch Young Pugilistic World. I really hope this masterpiece of Wanhao Pictures can open up the market of martial arts movies and lead the new trend of our domestic movies. The reporter just now couldn't help but look embarrassed. He also took the red packet from Wanhao Pictures, but in the end, he didn't talk about the main topic and started to promote for Lu Chun. On the contrary, Lu Chun pulled the topic back and praised Young Pugilistic World. Who could say that he was wrong? After dealing with these questions, Lu Chun pulled Chun Fei into the cinema. The premiere was held in Hall 1, which could accommodate 1,200 spectators. This hall had not been officially open to the public yet. All the equipment and facilities were the latest, especially the giant screen, which was claimed to be the best in Asia, which gave people a very shocking feeling. There were already a lot of people sitting in the hall, and the scene was very well decorated. The seats of Lu Chun and the other two were arranged in the middle of the third row, which was the real VIP treatment. After sitting down, Lu Shi asked softly, "You praised them so much just now, aren't you afraid of hurting your own feet?" Previously, Lu Chun had praised Wanhao Pictures and Young Pugilistic World. What he said would definitely be published on the internet media as soon as possible, which was equivalent to helping Wanhao Pictures promote for free. Lu Chun smiled but didn't say anything. If Young Pugilistic World was really good and outstanding, then it wouldn't matter whether he praised it or not. But if the result was the opposite, then the higher he praised it now, the harder he would fall in the future. Lu Chun didn't like to scheme against others, and he was used to crushing his opponents fair and square. But this didn't mean that he wouldn't give them a taste of their own medicine. At 7:30 at night, the lights in the hall dimmed, and the giant screen showed the beginning of the movie. The premiere of Young Pugilistic World had officially begun. Chapter 8:27. Young Pugilistic World had a big highlight in terms of publicity, and that was that during the filming process, they used the latest digital giant screen technology, abandoning the shortcoming of using special film to film the previous giant screen movies. Coupled with the investment of integrated IMAX equipment throughout the entire process, the viewing effect reached the world's first-class standards. Of course, this martial arts blockbuster invested by Wanhao Pictures was divided into two versions to meet the viewing needs of different audiences, and the premiere was naturally the giant screen version. The length of the film reached 110 minutes, nearly 2 hours. During the process of the film playing, there was applause from the audience from time to time, and there were exclamations. More than 1,000 audiences and media reporters seemed to have been conquered by this giant film. When the film was over, there was a warm applause from the audience. The lights slowly lit up, countless colored foil fell from the sky, and all the crew members who participated in the premiere went on the stage, making the atmosphere in the cinema reach its climax. Lu Chun didn't continue to sit and watch the excitement, but together with Chun Fer and Lu Shi, they politely said goodbye to Lu Xingda, the head of Wanhao Pictures, expressing their regret that they couldn't attend the celebration party later. Lu Xingda was in a very good mood, and he couldn't hide the pride on his face. He said a few polite words and didn't ask Lu Chun and the other two to stay. His attention had obviously flown away. Leaving the noisy cinema, Lu Chun took a long breath of fresh air outside, and his mind was a lot clearer. The Mercedes-Benz driven by Zhang Xiaofeng was already waiting in the driveway. Lu Chun was just about to open the door to let his girlfriend and sister get in first when several people suddenly jumped out from the side. A microphone was handed to Lu Chun as quickly as possible. "Hello, Lu Chun. I'm a reporter from QQ Entertainment. Can I ask you a few questions?" Lu Chun was speechless. He really admired this reporter. Other colleagues were watching the film in the cinema for interviews, but she actually brought people to squat outside, and most likely, she was waiting for him. If it was another reporter, Lu Chun might not be willing to pay attention, but Chinfei Media and QQ have always had a good cooperative relationship, so he turned around and said, "Yes, but only 3 questions." The female reporter of QQ Entertainment was obviously a very smart and capable kind. She had undoubtedly thought about the question long ago. After getting Lu Chun's approval, she asked without hesitation, "After watching Young Jianghu, what's your judgment on this movie?" This question was really hard to answer. Although Lu Chun had praised Wanhao Pictures and Young Man in the Pugilistic World, once, that was before watching the movie. No matter how many good words he said, they could only be considered polite words. Now that the premiere was over, Lu Chun was quite sensitive to the judgment of Young Pugilistic World. No matter what he said, it would be easy for others to gossip about him. Lu Chun thought for a moment and replied, "I'm an actor now. I watch movies from a professional point of view. Personally, I think Young Jianghu is good, but the audience has to judge for themselves." The concise and standard diplomatic language made the female reporter's teeth ache. She asked, "Do you really think Young Jianghu is very good?" This question, Lu Chun nodded. "The picture is exquisite, and the giant screen effect is excellent." "Really praise?" The female reporter's eyes lit up and she asked, "So will you recommend your friends to watch this movie? Just tell me, how much money did you receive from Wanhao Pictures?" Lu Chen glanced at her and said with a smile, "I never recommend movies to my friends." This time, it was the female reporter's turn to be speechless, a waste of a question. She didn't give up and asked, "So, I've answered 3 questions. I still have something to do." Lu Chen didn't want to continue arguing with her. He quickly got into the Mercedes-Benz and said, "Goodbye." The experienced Zhang Xiaofeng immediately started the engine, stepped on the accelerator, and drove away, leaving the others looking at each other. The female reporter stomped her feet in anger, but there was nothing she could do. Lu Chen was also very helpless. He sat in the car and said with lingering fear, "Reporters nowadays are getting more and more difficult to deal with." Just now, Lu Chen was really shocked. The other party's sudden appearance almost made him beat him up. Fortunately, he realized something was wrong in time and controlled himself. Otherwise, tomorrow's headlines would definitely be his. Lu Chen beats up a reporter at the entrance of Wanhao Cinema. Just thinking about this title made him drunk. Chun Fei pursed his lips and smiled. "You only know now? I wanted to remind you just now." Lu Chen smiled bitterly and shook his head. Lu Shi asked, "Do you really think Young Adventures in Pugilistic World is very good?" The reporter had already asked this question once, but Lu Shi wanted to hear the truth. Her sister always felt that Lu Chen was hiding something bad. If she didn't figure it out, she wouldn't be able to sleep well at night. Lu Chen asked with a smile, "What do you think? Or, what do you think of this movie?" Lu Shi thought for a moment and said, "You're right. The picture is exquisite. The giant screen effect is excellent, and the special effects of several fighting scenes are done well." But her sister frowned and said, "Apart from these, it doesn't feel much different from other special effects films, and the whole story is quite awkward. After watching it, I don't have a very special impression." Lu Shi evaluated the movie from the perspective of an audience. Of course, her opinion was certainly very subjective and didn't have general value. Lu Chen looked at Chun Fei. "What about you?" Chun Fei On the evening of July 2nd, the premiere of Young Adventures in Pugilistic World was held in the newly built Wanhao Studios. That night, many media published relevant news, and several online media also broadcast the scene live. By the next day, the promotion of the movie reached an unprecedented level. In blogs, forums, Tieba, QQ groups, and other places, the relevant recommendation articles were almost like cowhide moss. Many media people, film critics, and star artists who attended the premiere all gave Young Adventures in Pugilistic World a very high evaluation, which also made Young Adventures in Pugilistic World famous, attracting the attention of countless people. And before that, the movie ticket pre-sale for Young Adventures in Pugilistic World had already begun. Taking advantage of this wave of popularity, the pre-sale results climbed steadily, and the opening screening was bound to have a very high box office, basically locking in the weekly champion. Young Adventures in Pugilistic World director, main actors, and the senior management of Wanhao Pictures, including Lu Xingda, all expressed their determination and confidence to break the box office record of domestic movies on different occasions. The box office was predicted to be 2 billion or even higher. All the glory of the so-called new martial arts movie seemed to have been taken away by Young Adventures in Pugilistic World overnight, and even its competitors didn't dare to challenge it lightly. On July 5th, Young Adventures in Pugilistic World was released in major cinemas across the country. The first-day screening rate was 42.75%. Chapter 828. Yao Yao, are you done? Sukai lowered his head and looked at the phone in his hand. The screen that had just lit up showed that it was 6:27. He couldn't suppress the anxiety in his heart, so he urged her to go to the bathroom again. His girlfriend, Kuyao, was in the bathroom freshening up. She hadn't come out for more than half an hour. Although he had long been used to hiding in the bathroom to dress up for a long time, he really couldn't stand it tonight because the movie was going to start in an hour. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Kuyao poked her head out of the bathroom, holding a lipstick in her hand. She said angrily, "Isn't it still very early?" I haven't even finished applying my lipstick yet. Sukai pointed at the phone with a bitter smile and said, "There's only 1 hour left. It's nighttime now, and the road is very congested. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid we'll be late. If we're late, then we'll be late." Kuyao didn't care at all. What's so good about this kind of fighting and killing movie? I want to watch Left and Right Love that has just been released. I don't like martial arts movies. Sukai raised his hands in surrender. All right, I'll wait for you. Sukai was a standard IT man. After graduating from university, he had worked in the deep sea for almost 10 years. It wasn't easy for him to find the girlfriend he liked. Naturally, he would give in to Kuyao if he could. He didn't want to live the life of a single dog anymore. Fortunately, Kuyao wasn't an unreasonable person. She spent another 10 minutes to solve the problem. She followed the restless Sukai out of their small home and drove to the cinema. When Sukai was single in the past, he was usually very busy with work, so he had very few entertainment activities. The only long-term hobby that he kept was probably reading online novels, because reading novels on his phone could make full use of his spare time. He also liked the new school of martial arts novels that had just become popular in the past few years. The martial arts novels that were more inclined to the real world were more durable than ordinary online novels. There wasn't too much fantasy and exaggeration, so it was more suitable for an old bookworm like him. On the bookshelf in Sukai's small study, there were 5 or 6 sets of martial arts novels, such as The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, Young Jianghu, and so on. Among these wuxia novels, Sukai's favorite was The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. This novel was the pioneer of the new school of wuxia, and it occupied the first place in his heart. Even The Legend of the Condor Heroes, which was now more famous than The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, could not be shaken. Sukai had read the few wuxia novels several times, and The Smiling, Proud Wanderer had read it at least 5 times. He had long been looking forward to this book being adapted into a movie or TV series. He had read these several martial arts novels, and The Proud Jianghu had at least 5 times. Looking forward to the movie. The Jianghu. The movie was very, the movie. To the Jianghu, the movie, and the movie, these. The Jit. The Jianghu tickets were very popular, especially the Jianghu version. Although Shanghai was a first-tier city, there weren't many cinemas with Jianghu. So Sukai, who was lucky enough to get a ticket, didn't want to be late. It would be a pity if he missed a movie. Fortunately, he was quite lucky. There weren't too many cars on the road. It took him more than 10 minutes to find a parking space at Xinli Cinema. When he finally arrived at the Jianghu Theater, there were only 5 minutes left before the movie started. Thank God. Holding a drink and popcorn in one hand and holding Kuyao's hand in the other, Sukai found their seats and sat down. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh, with a look of lingering fear. Kuyao shook off his hand and rolled her eyes at him. "Look at how anxious you are." "Really?" Sukai chuckled and handed over the snacks he had just bought in a flattering manner. However, his attention was quickly attracted by the image that appeared on the screen. The movie had started. The eye-catching logo of Wanhao Pictures and the 4 golden words were the first thing that came into view. After half a minute of the introduction, a grand scene was projected on the screen. The towering mountains, the majestic city gates, and the row upon row of buildings were getting closer and closer. Sukai couldn't help but hold his breath. He had seen the trailer of the Jianghu a long time ago, but the image that he saw on his computer and phone was completely different from what was shown on screen. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. The combination of real scenes and CG was vividly displayed on the super high-resolution giant screen projection. It immediately captured Sukai's heart and made him look forward to the subsequent plot. However, after half an hour, this feeling of anticipation weakened a lot. Sukai's attention returned to his girlfriend. He turned his head and happened to see Kuyao yawn out of boredom. Then, she lazily stuffed 2 pieces of popcorn into her mouth with a disinterested expression. Although he knew that his girlfriend didn't like this type of movie, Sukai felt very helpless when he saw Kuyao's expression. If he had known earlier, he would have watched Left and Right Love with her first and then watched the Jianghu alone. An hour later, Sukai moved his butt. He felt that the cinema was a little stuffy and the air conditioning wasn't turned on enough. He looked at Kuyao again. She had actually fallen asleep on his shoulder. Sukai's helplessness turned into a bitter smile. The 200 yuan that he had spent that night was wasted. After watching for another 20 minutes or so, Sukai finally couldn't sit still anymore. He gently pushed Kuyao, who was still sleeping. Kuyao woke up with a start. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked, "Is it over?" "Not yet." Sukai smiled bitterly. "It's about time. Let's go first. It'll be very crowded later." After a pause, he added, "I'll accompany you to the Jinsha shopping mall next door." Hearing about shopping mall, Kuyao's sleepiness instantly disappeared. "Okay, then let's go." She was bored to death. If it weren't for accompanying her boyfriend, she wouldn't have bothered to suffer like this. She couldn't wait to leave. The two of them left the cinema together and went to the shopping mall instead. When they returned home, it was already past 10 o'clock at night. Kuyao was happily trying on the new clothes she had just bought in the bedroom. Sukai sat in front of the computer as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. He always felt that there was something stifling in his heart, and he had to get it out. He turned on the computer and skillfully logged into a forum that he frequented. In the film section, he opened a new post. The title was, "Just came back from watching The Jianghu of Youth. Talk about your feelings about watching it." After typing on the keyboard for 7 or 8 minutes and editing for a few more minutes, a short film review post came out. Sukai looked at the edited content on the screen. He hesitated for a moment and then hit the enter key. "Ha!" The sound was crisp. Chapter 829. Saturday night was the most active time for the netizens. For the single dogs who lived in the city, playing games, reading blogs, watching videos, and bragging on a forum was undoubtedly the cheapest form of entertainment. It was already past 10 o'clock. In the Jianghai Community Forum, the number of online members and visitors increased. The number of posts in a major section such as miscellaneous topics, national outlook, military, entertainment, film, and television reached new highs. As a famous online community in the country, Jianghai's forum had always been very popular. Often when a post was refreshed, it would sink and disappear in a few seconds. Only posts that were enhanced by the moderator could squeeze into the front page. And tonight, at least half of the popular posts on the front page of the film and television section were related to the recently released Young Pugilistic World. Moreover, they were all film reviews written by gods. There were many gods in the Jianghai Community film and television section. Their common characteristic was that they stayed online for a long time. The frequency of their posts was very high. Moreover, all of them could be considered as jokers. When they commented on popular or obscure movies and TV series, they were often very sharp. Many times they were like venomous snakes. However, generally speaking, the film and television works that were criticized by these gods were not necessarily failures. There was no lack of box office sales or high ratings, but they were still able to influence a group of audiences. In fact, there was no lack of real film critics, freelancers, or even media reporters among the great gods in Jianghai. There was definitely a certain gap between their appreciation and that of the general public. Just like the works they praised, the box office might be so bleak that they couldn't even recover the cost. This week, Jianghai Community had a movie viewing event and received a lot of free tickets. Some of them were given as rewards to senior members, and some were used for lucky draws. Therefore, today Young Pugilistic World was released nationwide. There were many people who ran to the film and television section to watch it. Of course, this also included a group of gods. Tonight, the firepower of the gods in Jianghai was all focused on Young Pugilistic World. Spending 150 million to get this thing. I'm really laughing. Leaving halfway through, it's really boring. The essence of Young Pugilistic World is all in the trailer. After watching the trailer, there's no need to buy a ticket. I wasted 100 yuan. It was simply a flood of negative comments. Sukai's post, I just finished watching Young World and Pugilistic World. Share your thoughts on the movie was also one of them. Compared to those gurus who were spewing venom, Sukai's post was undoubtedly more neutral. It was also written in great detail and was very realistic. Therefore, the moderator added the essence of the post and sent it to the front page. The number of clicks quickly exceeded 10,000. Sukai's post was filled with resentment and ridicule. As a fan of the novel, he had bought all the legal books of Young Wanderer and read them twice. He quite liked this martial arts novel, and he was looking forward to the movie that was adapted into a movie. Especially after watching the exciting trailer, he spent a lot of effort to get tickets. In the end, he brought his girlfriend to watch the show at night and was splashed with a bucket of cold water. This was because Wanhao Pictures had adapted Young Pugilistic World to a ridiculous degree. The story was fragmented, the connection was stiff, and there were problems with the logic. Although there were many stars in the movie, there were no characters that made people's eyes light up. To be fair, the special effects of this movie were done quite well. The giant screen effect was very outstanding. However, the fighting in the movie was completely magical, and it was completely different from the martial arts style in the original novel. In other words, Young Pugilistic World was actually a magical special effects film in the guise of wuxia, coupled with the messy relationships between the characters and a third-rate romance story. It was all boiled into a steaming pot and served up to the table. Sukai felt that it was not delicious. It was filled with a strange taste, and it was not the taste that he had imagined. He had already watched a few similar blockbusters a few years ago, when the IP of online novels was very popular. He was already tired of it, and the special effects of Young Wanderer was far from being comparable to the top Hollywood blockbusters. Then what was the selling point of this movie? Was it Huafei's face that had no acting skills and only knew how to act cool? Sukai was really disappointed. He felt like he had been cheated. The dissatisfaction and ridicule he expressed in the post were acknowledged by many netizens who had also watched the movie that night. Everyone had booked tickets in advance or snatched tickets. They rushed into the theater excitedly, bought drinks and popcorn, and were waiting to enjoy a feast for the eyes. In the end, just as Sukai had said, everyone's appetite had been whetted by the early publicity of Young Wanderer, which was why there was such a big gap. If one did not have such high expectations, they could actually just watch the movie with popcorn. The most disappointed people were probably the fans of the original novel. There were also a few fans in the movie version. According to them, they wanted to stuff the script into the scriptwriter's mouth so that he could swallow it and then take it out. Maybe the things that he would take out would be even more valuable. At the same time, on the Waves blog, the comments on Young Wanderer were polarized. One side was cheering and strongly recommending it, while the other side was criticizing it and criticizing it. There were also many people who did not know the truth but liked to join in the fun. The two sides were fighting fiercely in the official V of Young Wanderer. Actually, be it praise or criticism, the success or failure of a movie was ultimately determined by the box office. There were many blockbuster movies that had been scolded badly, and some of them even became more popular the more they were scolded. It was hard to say. The next morning, the box office rankings on Guangying website were updated on time. Young Wanderer's first day of screening was 75%, with a box office of 107 million. It broke 100 million on the first day. Although it was not rare for a movie to break 100 million on the first day, as a purely domestic movie, Young Wanderer's box office breaking 100 million on the first day was still very dazzling. It was worthy of the media praising it. On the internet, the voices of those who were criticizing it were suppressed by the box office of more than 100 million. The influence of a forum like Zhanghai Community Movie Version could not be compared to the Waves blog. No matter how fiercely they criticized it, it did not affect the overall situation. On the 6th of July, Young Wanderer's box office hit 125 million. It had accumulated 232 million in 2 days. It showed a strong momentum and caused many cinemas to increase the number of screenings, crushing the other movies that were released at the same time. But no one expected that on the 7th of July, the box office of Young Wanderer would suddenly take a big dive. It dropped from 125 million on the previous day to 61 million, a drop of more than 50%. Such a drastic drop caused the industry to be in an uproar. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.